for others. I would not be standing and talking to you without the goodness of so many others
And
who've
there's so
lifted me
much
up.
evil and hate in this
Yes,
world. But do you
there
really,
is.
even now, having been through what you've been through, believe that good prevails?
Absolutely, without a doubt, without a doubt. And love has to win.
Diane Foley, thank you so much for joining me on Hard Talk.
My pleasure, Stephen.
That was Hard Talk. I'm Saroja Coelho. You're listening to CBC Radio 1. Have a great day.
Good morning, Manitoba. I'm Marcy Marcusa, and this is Information Radio. Thanks so much for joining us on this Christmas Eve morning as we get set to deliver a really good show this morning. We've got a little bit of heart and a little bit of love and everything local. 3 minutes to 6 o'clock. We're on air till 8:37 a.m. with you on this Christmas Eve show. In the weather forecast, not too bad, right? That mild weather continues. -9 right now in the city of Winnipeg, and today we're going to, a little bit of a sketchy driving day, potentially. Going to have some flurries, risk of freezing drizzle, and it's going to be windy. Winds will be gusting from the south 30 to 50. Let's say good morning to the team. Good morning, May McKillop. May is directing the show and will be covering the commute for Corey today. Good morning, Abby Adeyemi, who, yes, is wearing a Grinch onesie. One day only, folks. It's Christmas Eve. Abby's our technical producer and will be on the air covering our forecast. And then good morning to Kevin Nipatebo, who's also in this Christmas Eve morning, who's our YouTube producer. Waving hello there if you're watching. All right, Riley Lachuk is also here. He's in for Heather Wells and is here with our headlines. Good morning.
Good morning. The mayor of Winnipeg says he's confident the province will eventually agree to a new funding model for cities. Scott Gillingham has been unsuccessfully pressing Premier Wab Kinew for a new formula that includes some form of growth-based revenue. We'll have more from the mayor's year-end interview ahead. And a special family reunion happening this week in Winnipeg. We'll bring you more on that story and the rest of your day's news coming up.
I love a good reunion story.
Yes, we do.
Today's a good day for it. Thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
In the first hour of the program, in addition to the stories Riley mentioned, we're going to hear why a local advocacy group is calling on Winnipeggers to pull out their cameras. So stay tuned. That's right after World Report. We'll tee up that story. Plus, I know we're just on Christmas Eve. You might be listening, and today's the first day of Hanukkah, of course, tonight. You might be thinking about preparing food. But you may already want to think ahead to the leftovers, especially if you like to make in big quantities. So we're going to talk in the first hour about what to do with all those leftover holiday meals. And to serious matters, Ukraine is facing its third holiday season of war. We have an expert on Ukraine who's going to talk about morale and where that is at. So stay with us for all of those stories. And we, in the second hour of the show, even have a choir that we're going to meet, a Filipino choir known as the Musica Singers of Manitoba. So that'll be nice this morning. Right now it's time, though, for World Report at 6.
On Q with Tom Power.
Beetlejuice, okay, no, I'm not going to say it 3 times. After the massive success of the original Beetlejuice, the director Tim Burton will tell you why he signed on for the long-awaited sequel and why the dynamic on set was really what made that film possible.
It's showtime.
That's coming up on Q, followed by Commotion with Elamine Abdel Mahmoud on CBC Radio 1, the CBC Listen app, and everywhere you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm Marcia Young. British Columbia's south coast is preparing for a series of windy winter storms. The first is already blown through, but forecasters warn there is more wind and rain coming. As Mira Baines tells us, it could cause power outages and delay some holiday travel plans.
Quite the opposite of a white Christmas.
Environment Canada meteorologist Chris Doyle says BC's west coast will be hit with strong winds and heavy rain on Wednesday. But this upcoming series of winter storms won't be bringing cold.
And through Christmas, it's going to be warm across the entire province, even in those areas up in the northwestern part of British Columbia and the Peace.
He says storm systems have been moving fast, pointing out Wednesday's storm originated in the southwestern Pacific near the Philippines. Extreme weather conditions have already resulted in numerous ferry cancellations, seaplane flights, and a landslide in which 2 people were killed in the town of Lions Bay near Squamish. BC Hydro spokesperson Moira Scott says emergency crews have been busy this season.
crews. We have experienced 3 significant events already this storm season, 2 in November and then 1 in December, that have resulted in hundreds of thousands of customers being impacted.
One of the reasons is drought, which has weakened trees, making them more vulnerable to gusting winds. She says BC Hydro crews are on standby over the holidays and ready to be deployed to other parts of the province if necessary. Mira Baines, CBC News, Vancouver.
4 heli skiers and their guide have been rescued from an avalanche just north of Whistler near Pemberton, BC. They were buried in the snow yesterday morning. RCMP Constable Antoine Grabling says the heli skiers are lucky there was another group nearby. They started rescue efforts almost immediately.
2 out of the 5 people were buried for an amount of time equal or greater than 10 minutes. So we're very fortunate that this didn't result in any loss of life.
All the skiers are in stable condition. The RCMP says this avalanche is believed to have been caused by the heli skiing. They are asking backcountry skiers to pay attention to the conditions. Police in Hong Kong are offering million-dollar bounties for information that leads to the arrest of 6 activists. The activists are based in Canada and the United Kingdom, and they're wanted for national security offenses following the 2019 anti-government protests. Many of those pro-democracy leaders have been jailed. Others fled abroad. But police announced 6 new warrants this morning. It's a signal Hong Kong is still cracking down on political dissent. Ontario banned cell phones from high school classrooms 3 months ago. The transition away from mobile devices has been difficult. Students and teachers say they are starting to get used to the new rule. The CBC's Jamie Strachan reports.
It's lunchtime at Toronto's Humberside Collegiate, and it seems like nearly every one of the school's 1,500 students is on their phones. It's hard not to be, says student Alex Perry.
That's literally it. It's a drug. Everybody's like, you get addicted to it.
In September, it was cold turkey for Ontario high school students, the latest province to ban cell phones in classes for grades 7 to 12. Principal Claudine Tyrell helped design the Toronto District School Board's cell policy.
It's a culture shift. Let's be real. We know that, even as adults, we have a heavy reliance on it.
After a rocky start, she says there is an acceptance that things have changed. The schools even installed charging stations where students can store their phones.
We're reducing the distractions that take place in school, and we're saying, put it away and let's work together.
Still, there are growing pains, says Alex Perry.
We have to enforce it fully in all of our classes. So it's not like some in some classes and less in the others, it's all the classes 100%.
The biggest question, has it improved academic performance? It's too early to say, says teacher Albert Bangma.
It is really hard to judge. I think that the students don't love it, and that often is a good thing to a certain extent.
Principal Tyrell says the next step, doing a better job explaining to students there can be happiness and success without their phones. Jamie Strachan, CBC News, Toronto.
In Damascus. Hundreds of Christians protest in the streets of Syria's capital. A Christmas tree that had been set up in the central city of Hama was burned down. A video posted online shows hooded vandals setting it on fire. It's been just over 2 weeks since Islamist rebels took over the country. People in Syria's Christian communities have been afraid of how they would be treated by the new regime. But in an online video, a member of the ruling group HTS said those who torched the Christmas tree were not Syrian. He says they will be punished and the tree will be replaced. Statistics Canada's latest immigration report shows newcomers admitted to Quebec usually choose to stay there. Of everyone who arrived in that province in 2021, 94% of them were still there 1 year later. The same wasn't true in Atlantic Canada. Retention rates have been dropping, especially in Nova Scotia and Newfoundland and Labrador. The report says immigrants who leave Atlantic Canada are more likely to settle in Ontario. Experts say that could be because it is easier to find their cultural communities in provinces with bigger cities. Canada's film industry is anticipating a big year ahead. Much of that could be thanks to the low Canadian dollar. This morning, the loonie sits at around 69 cents US. That may be putting a strain on Canadians traveling stateside. But as the CBC's Taylor Bratt explains, it is doing the opposite for American film companies eyeing Canadian locations.
If you don't think there's hope for the world, why bother going on?
The Last of Us was named the largest production to ever be filmed in Alberta, according to the Motion Picture Association of Canada. The post-apocalyptic TV series is part of a wave of U.S. productions choosing to film in the country, and there are several reasons why, according to Michelle Wong. She's the head of business affairs at production company 724 Films in Calgary.
Of course, it's right next door to the U.S. We speak their language. Our culture is very similar. We're known as a hardworking country.
On top of tax incentives and dynamic landscapes, she says the low dollar could be another feather in our cap.
When the dollar goes down, that means a lot more production is going up.
Wong knows this because it's happened before. In 2002, the Canadian dollar reached an all-time low of 61 cents against its U.S. counterpart. And Damien Petty agrees. He's the president of Local 212 of the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees in Calgary.
That was a very, very busy year for production, not just in Alberta, but nationally.
As an Albertan, he sees competition heating up between the provinces.
We have to look at what those other jurisdictions are doing. It's a very competitive, bottom line driven industry.
We have a greater purpose than any of us could have ever imagined.
And as for The Last of Us Season 3 filming in Canada, Petty says right now everyone is waiting for a decision from HBO. Taylor Bratt, CBC News, Calgary.
It is a big year for fans of Canadian author Lucy Maud Montgomery. 2024 would have been her 150th birthday. The manuscript for her most beloved novel was added to the United Nations Register celebrating Canadian heritage. All of that is making Christmas celebrations at the Green Gables Museum on PEI extra special. Connor Lamont reports.
Children decorate cookies, sing, and sip hot drinks at a Green Gables Christmas in Cavendish. Kaylee Curry leads pinprick art lessons for kids, something that was popular during the time of L.M. Montgomery.
I can't wait to come back for L.M. Montgomery 200.
Curry is a museum operations manager on the island. She says Montgomery's works have been a huge inspiration in her own life, and that the author deserves to be added to the United Nations Register that highlights Canadian heritage. The register includes things like maps and diaries significant to Canada's history. Montgomery's manuscript is the first edition for Prince Edward Island.
I think you can't downplay her importance. I mean, she's such an incredible woman, a very ambitious and intelligent and determined woman for her time period, and especially for someone like that to come out of Atlantic Canada. I think that's really, really special.
Montgomery was born in PEI in 1874 and taught at multiple schools on the island. Her novel, Anne of Green Gables, is her most popular work. And Curry isn't the only one excited about the recent recognition. Kevin Rice is the director at the Confederation Center Art Gallery in Charlottetown. It's where the manuscript can be found.
That we actually have preserved that stack of papers that really captures Montgomery's story, her writing activity. I think that's a really major cultural artifact.
As for Curry, she says Montgomery's works will continue to inspire readers for many more generations. Connor Lamont, CBC News, Cavendish.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. For news anytime, go to cbcnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, Manitoba. I'm Marcy Marcusa, and happy Christmas Eve, everybody. And first day of Hanukkah coming up as well, or I should say first night. Busy day. Are you in the kitchen? If you are, we have an interview this hour already thinking about the leftovers. So we might want, you might want to make more after you hear what we have to say. So stay tuned for that. I'm Marcy Marcusa, as mentioned. This is Information Radio. You're on CBC, 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. So in addition to talking about the food, we will turn our attention to some serious stories this hour. One of them is Ukraine, facing its third holiday season of war. We're going to talk to an expert about the morale there. And coming up first, we're going to hear why a local accessibility advocacy group is calling on Winnipeggers right now to pull out their cameras Stay tuned. Heather Walls is looking good this morning. Riley Lachuk's in for Christmas Eve. What do you have in your headlines?
Good morning. We'll stay on the holiday theme. A Winnipeg Resource Center hoping that you get a new smartphone or some new technology this Christmas. That's because Sunshine House is looking for your old smartphones. They're looking for devices to go to people in need, including to members of the 2SL LGBTQ plus community who are facing homelessness. And a new funding deal has been a dream of Winnipeg mayors for decades. Mayor Scott Gillingham says it is inevitable. We'll hear why in a year-end interview that's coming up on your next local news at 6:30.
All right, thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
And let's get into the actual forecast now for Christmas Eve. It's going to be mild again today, but could be a little bit tricky out there.
Oh, Christmas Eve, oh, Christmas Eve.
Okay, why did I launch right into weather? How do I do that when the man sitting across from me, Abby Adiyemi, is like, everyone knows Abby pulls out their Christmas sweaters, like, just quietly. They start in December.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's Christmas Eve. And describe to the radio listeners what you're wearing.
It's more of a Grinch onesie.
It is a Grinch onesie, in fact. Head to toe, hood up. You're looking fly.
And there's going to be a transformation sometime later in the show. Just saying.
No.
Heads up for that.
Okay.
Just brace for that.
Okay, I'm ready. We're ready. The weather today, right? A little windy.
Yeah, a little windy across the province. We're looking at cloudy conditions. A few chance of flurries will be spotted here and there. We still have that freezing drizzle in some areas, though conditions will clear up later in the afternoon with light winds, and temperatures will be ranging from -1 in the Red River Valley region to -3 in western Manitoba. But right now in Winnipeg, it is a -9. We're seeing drifting snow reported at the airport. The forecast says it's going to be a cloudy start to the day, and then that slight chance of flurries would hang out with us. We will see some freezing drizzle sometime this morning. Fog patches still spotted here and there in some areas around the city and even around the perimeter areas. That should dissipate as the day progresses, and then we'll see the skies would clear by the afternoon period. Then that breeze is going to be easing to light later in the day, and we only get a high of -1 today. So, oh, Christmas Eve, thank you for that. -1.
Yeah, right? Because who wants to shiver going to church?
Nope.
I spent a lot of my youth doing that, wearing the nylons. All right, let's get into what's happening otherwise in the morning commute. May McKillop is in for Corey.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So no calls so far, but I'm just taking a look at our map here, and I'm seeing that there's along the perimeter, the south perimeter, east and north perimeter, there's some partly covered highways. The snowplows are moving along there, as well just south of the city on Highway 59, a fair bit of reduced visibility, similar west of Brandon.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing so far.
Or maybe not awesome, but that's what's happening.
Well, if that's all that's happening, that's,
awesome.
Take it as you do. If there's anything else going on out there, though, I'm there behind the commuter line and ready to take people's calls throughout the whole show. So give me a call, 204-788-3093.
Well, we all know the saying, a picture is worth 1,000 words. That's why some advocates are calling on Winnipeggers to pull out their cameras, particularly when you encounter a snow barrier. So what is that? Well, it could be a pile of freshly plowed snow drifting onto a sidewalk, chunks of the frozen snow, you know those, that might block a pathway or a dangerous icy patch. The Snow Plow campaign is created by members of the Manitoba League of Persons with Disabilities. Now, David Crone is one of the people behind the campaign. He's also executive director of Cerebral Palsy Association of Manitoba. He joined Chloe Friesen on CBC's Up to Speed yesterday to talk about this campaign this year. Here's part of the conversation.
Now, what are you asking people to do with these photos once they've taken them?
Well, when they're out for a walk or if they have a mobility issue and they come across a part of the sidewalk or road that isn't passable, take a picture of it and go to our social media campaign. There's a Google form to tell us where and when, and upload it so we can share it with the city. Like you said, a picture is worth 1,000 words.
Now, why was the decision made for this to use photos to raise awareness specifically?
Well, we want to show really to raise the awareness. It doesn't take a lot of debris or a windrow, or just even in the spring when everything feels like mashed potatoes, where you can't get through and it's, you just have a hard time navigating the streets. And we want to make sure that the city, on paper, they have a really good protocol, and we want to help them show the spots that they might have missed. They do thousands and thousands of kilometers of streets. There's always oopsies, right? And we want to show where they can do better. And we also, if you've got a good stretch of road or sidewalk, take a picture of that too.
Okay, so you're asking for the positives as well.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah,
Okay.
it's really good.
Yeah, no, there's definitely from what I'm seeing, there's a spirit of helping the city in that. Why was that an important angle for you folks to take?
It every spring or about this time, I'm always on the radio or TV or whatever, doing the whole, here comes the snow, let's clear the sidewalks. So we wanted to be proactive, and we wanted to add to community, and we wanted to educate. We also wanted a tool that can help the city help us. Right. And even, private owners, if you're an owner of a business, clear that little bit of snow in front of your your store. If we can't get in, we can't go shopping there.
Right. And this is something you just mentioned you do kind of on a yearly basis, maybe like biannually, depending on the season. Does it ever get tiring, or do you ever wish you didn't have to come in?
No, we understand that we live in a city where it snows, right? And we also know that we need to keep this on top of the political culture, and so we don't want snow cuts to be a budgetary item. We want it to be so folks, whether you have a disability or not, there's folks that are like wheeling that cart from the store to their car, or a parent with a stroller, or just somebody that, the gravity is hard. And those,
That's a good way to put it.
You don't want to falling is hard to get back up, so we want to stop all those things as best we can. It could be anything. It doesn't take much to make it a place impassable. And it could be the sidewalk, it could be the road. It's all about timing too with the city, right? Like they got to send the plows in the right order at the right time. You do the streets, then you do the sidewalks. And if they get that a little mucked up, or where they dump the snow, or the windrow, you might nicely do your sidewalk and then the city comes along and plows the windrow in. Well, it's really impossible then to get out. So, there's all sorts of different things. People know it when they see it, right?
From your personal experience, you've shared with us that you use a manual chair and a cane to get around. What comes up for you when you approach a snow barrier, when you see it for the first time?
I find a lot of change on the ground because all I do is look down, and I look to where I can plant my feet. I don't get to see the sights or but because I have to, it's all about motor planning, and it's all about figuring out what you can and can't do. Folks that use a power chair to get through, it's even tougher because those things don't have winter tires on it, and they're heavy. And, packed snow's not bad, but it's that ice and that, like I said, that mashed potatoes can be tough, or just having that ridge of whatever. You can't get over it, right? And we always look for the goodwill of others, right, to help folks out.
I'm curious about the opposite feeling, like when you see something that's been cleared really well.
Well, it's just nice to see, and I don't think the city gets enough kudos, right? We tend to notice when things aren't going well, and we don't take the time to say thank you for doing it well. That's important too.
What help is there if folks who have mobility challenges or strollers or a bunch of those situations you just listed, what help is there if people find themselves actually stuck?
Well, I've had a couple of my members have had actually call 911 and have the fire department come out and pull them out of the snowbank. But most times it's just the goodwill of people, right? I had one member a couple of years ago when the snowdrifts were really high. He had slipped on the sidewalk, and he was below the drift and nobody saw him for like an hour.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So, I tell people if they have the means to take a cell phone with them so that they can phone and get help. But most times people help people.
How do you hope the city of Winnipeg responds to your call to action and to this initiative? But you also seem to have a bit of grace for the situation.
Well, we need to. They don't have it's not an unlimited budget, and they don't have unlimited number of people or pieces of equipment. I think, in talking to the department, they've actually been appreciative of our website because they don't know where they don't know. They have, hundreds of different contractors doing all these little areas of the city. So they need to know so that they can check up and follow up on when somebody's having a good day and a bad day.
And this is the Snow Plow campaign. You're calling it a collective effort. Who can all take part?
Anybody who is out in the city, taking your dog for a walk, whatever.
Now, how can people share their photos with you if they're out there just now very focused on snow barriers out there?
They take a picture, go to our social media snowplow campaign, and they upload the picture. Like I said, there's a Google form telling us where and when. And then if you see that they've done it, take another picture and tell us that it's been fixed.
Okay.
That's another good thing.
David, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon and sharing more about this campaign.
Well, thanks for having me.
That's David Crone, the Executive Director of Cerebral Palsy Association of Manitoba. That's one of the organizations behind the Snow Plow campaign, in conversation there with the CBC's Chloe Friesen. So the photos, by the way, should be from this winter, 2024 and soon 2025, and in the city of Winnipeg, and taken by you or by someone you know.
Enjoy this festive season.
We're all in for a very big treat.
It must be magic.
Tremendous, gargantuan, spectacular.
Enjoy the holidays. Watch free on CBC Gem.
So quite embarrassingly, I got corrected this morning because my head's already into tomorrow. And I've been saying that Hanukkah begins at sundown today. So thank you, Diane, for calling and saying, hey, Marcy, it's not Christmas yet. It's Christmas Eve, and Hanukkah does coincide with Christmas this year, but it does begin tomorrow, December 25th at sundown. So you might be thinking about it today. You might be cooking today already. You might be cooking for Christmas Eve today. Next on the show, we're going to talk about what to do with the leftovers and whether or not you should already keep them in mind. Claire Tansey is a chef, cooking teacher, and author of Dinner Uncomplicated, and I spoke with her actually at 6.
Good morning.
So what's the key, in your view, to using up all the leftovers and enjoying them? Is it understanding that you'll have them? Do you think about leftovers even when you're starting to cook?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think about the leftovers before I even order my roast because I really love turkey leftovers, so I want lots. There's nothing worse for me than not having any leftovers. But if you don't like leftovers, then you don't have to order a big turkey. You don't have to cook a big turkey or a big roast. So just to think about that when you're planning. But then also when you're planning your vegetable side dishes, think about what reheats well and what doesn't. For example, anything in the cabbage family, fantastic on the first night, not so great the next day. So that's things like Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, turnip, broccoli. Maybe only make enough for kind of one round. But sweet potatoes, peas, mashed potatoes, scalloped potatoes, make tons because they reheat really, really well.
What about soups? Because obviously a lot of people will take the turkey or the roast or even some of those leftover things and have success with throwing it all in a big pot. But what's a key to making a really good soup?
So I believe it's actually the opposite of that. It's not throwing everything in the pot. I mean, if that works for you and you love it, absolutely. I don't yuck yums. But for me, I really like to make a beautiful turkey stock. So that means taking my turkey carcass, taking my bones, putting it into a big, huge pot, covering it with nice, fresh, cold water, adding some raw carrots, onions, celery, a handful of maybe peppercorns, a bay leaf or something. And then I want to simmer that and simmer and simmer and simmer like 8 to 12 hours uncovered to really, really concentrate that beautiful flavor, get a gorgeous turkey stock. Strain out all the bones and vegetables. And then that gorgeous turkey stock can be chilled. It can be put in the freezer. It's good for 6 months in the freezer. Maybe you want to have turkey soup in June. I don't know. Or, you start to make your turkey soup from there. So you saute some onions, carrots, celery, add that gorgeous turkey stock, add some turkey meat, maybe some rice or noodles, and now you've got a truly special, gorgeous, very concentrated in flavor turkey soup.
My turkey soups in the past have been okay, but the best success I had was recreating tartare. So we make French meat pie, and I took the filling out, and then I made like a beef soup. I added cream and mushroom soup on top, and then I kind of recreated it into this soup.
Oh, I
It was
love this. That's a real reinvention. I love
Yeah.
that. There's never any leftover tortilla in my house. We eat it all.
Okay, there is that. There is that too. I'm also mindful that obviously it's Christmas Eve today and Christmas tomorrow. So what about maybe some ideas for Hanukkah leftovers?
Well, if you have leftovers, and when it comes to all the different beautiful Hanukkah foods, they are great reheated. Things like brisket, latkes, delicious. They've got a wonderful shelf life. Or anything like if you've got lots of extra challah, it can be frozen. It can be made into the most wonderful bread and butter pudding or French toast, or even honestly challah. Challah makes everything better. Sandwiches, from sandwiches to just plain old cinnamon toast. So if you've got lots of leftovers, just again, you want to be mindful that you don't have a lot of those leftovers that don't reheat well. But those leftovers that do reheat well, feel free to lean in.
What freezes well that maybe people may not even think about?
Well, gravy and stuffing and cranberry sauce. I don't know why. I always have so much cranberry sauce. I don't know why that is, but it freezes really well if you've got too much of it. And gravy and stuffing as well. Meat is okay to freeze, but like cooked roast, I would say if possible, don't carve it all. Just like freeze it in big pieces. Maybe have a big fight with your cousin, and so he's not coming for Christmas this year, so you've got too much turkey. Try to freeze it in big pieces. It's just going to keep the freezer flavors off of the meat as much as possible. Everything else, vegetable side dishes, you can buy yourself a bit of time by putting them in the freezer, but you don't have much more than a couple of weeks before they start to taste really just kind of sad. And truly, when they come out of the freezer, you want to think about reinventing them, not just reheating them. So think, pot pie, curry, fried rice, those sorts of things, instead of just heating them up in the microwave, because they will have lost a bit of their specialness and a bit of their awesomeness.
Can you freeze rice really well? Like I know, Abby, who's on our crew here, makes awesome jollof rice. Does it freeze well? Because I always wonder when I freeze my rice, it's like it gets clumpy. Or do you spread it out, or is that just a don't bother freezing rice?
No, rice actually freezes well, but yeah, you've got it exactly right. You can't freeze it when it's hot. You have to cook it and then cool it really quickly. So spread it on a baking sheet, or just like if it's like sticky rice. But if it's like basmati rice, you can rinse it in cold water and then get it into a single layer. And then once it's like room temperature or even fridge temperature, then you can toss it into a Ziploc and put it in the freezer. And it actually freezes like a dream. It's a great thing to have on hand in the freezer.
Happy holidays, Claire. Thanks for this.
And to you, happy cooking.
Claire Tansey is a cooking teacher, chef, and author.
The customer you have reached,
Radio Noon,
is not available. Please leave your message at the tone.
Hello, this is Santa Claus. Just calling you back to say that I talked to the elves, and yes, they will let me take some calls from the good girls and boys of Manitoba on Radio Noon Christmas Eve from 12:30 to 1 p.m. Looking forward to it, so please don't hold any calls.
Santa Claus is coming to Radio Noon Christmas Eve from 12:30 to 1. Get those questions and Christmas wishes ready and dial 204-780-0893 for your chance to talk to Santa.
Santa is up this Christmas Eve morning, and he has reconfirmed with us here at CBC that he will be able to make the call-in. So pretty excited. Between 12:30 and 1 o'clock, you can get those calls into Santa Claus for Radio Noon. If you need us in traffic this morning, by the way, speaking of calls, please use the traffic line, 788-3093, an update on what's happening out there on the roadways or what it feels like in the city of Winnipeg. Watch for crews and equipment this morning, and of course, it's going to be a busy, bustling day, so be gentle, folks. While you're rushing around if you're doing last minute things. I always just like to remind folks it can be kind of sketch out there. It gets busy. We are going to check opening day's markets and find out how Lazy Boy is getting involved on a petition that has to do with airplane reclining seats. Stay tuned. That's in business news after your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Riley Leachuk in Winnipeg at 6:30 minus 9 at the airport this hour. We're looking at some windy conditions out there this morning. South winds gusting over 30 at the moment. We're looking at slight chance of flurries, risk of freezing drizzle, clearing sky later on. A high today in the city, -1. A new funding deal has been a dream of Winnipeg mayors for decades. Winnipeg Mayor Scott Gillingham says it is inevitable. And as the CBC's Cameron McLean reports, there are examples of other cities in Canada that have found ways to bring in more money.
After years of under budgeting for things like snow removal and challenges around mental health, the city is under financial pressure. Mayor Scott Gillingham has a prediction.
There's coming a time when a premier is going to enter into a new funding model with municipalities, one that incentivizes growth.
Saskatchewan will transfer $340 million next year, about 3/4 of a point of the PST. And Quebec gives 1 point of its sales tax. Vancouver's transit service TransLink receives a share of fuel tax. University of Toronto researcher Enid Slack says Winnipeg's system is outdated.
There's a long list of challenges that are new, and yet the finance system that they have really dates back to the 1840s.
But Winnipegger Michelle Durand-Wood says the sales tax is less stable than a property tax.
We can't have that ability to provide those services subject to the whims of the economic cycle.
Gillingham's goal is getting the property tax increase back to 3.5%. But without new funding or service cuts, that will be a challenge. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Well, now to a special family reunion happening in Winnipeg this week.
We're the same height. We are.
That's the moment Lisa Wallace and Jennifer Henderson met for the very first time at the airport yesterday. The two women didn't know they were half-sisters until months ago. The women share a biological father and were born less than a year apart in the 1970s. Neither knew the other existed until this past fall. Henderson flew in from Alberta.
All I ever wanted my entire life was to have a sister, and I've had one this whole time, and I didn't know. So it's definitely it's an amazing feeling. I can't describe it any other way.
Henderson says she and Wallace will spend the holidays learning about each other, but she already feels like she's known her sister her entire life. You can hear more on this story coming up after World Report at 8 o'clock here on Information Radio. To Northwest Turkey. Rescue workers survey the rubble of an ammunition factory. At least 12 people are dead in an explosion there. 4 others were injured. It happened in the city of Balıkesir. The local governor says the explosion caused the capsule production building to collapse. Officials say they do not know the cause, but have ruled out sabotage. Turkey's justice minister has launched an investigation. A U.S. citizen has been sentenced to 15 years in jail in Russia for espionage. Eugene Spector was born in Russia, but later moved to the United States. When Spector returned to Russia in 2021, he was arrested for bribery. He pleaded guilty to mediating a bribe for an aide to an ex-Russian deputy prime minister. Spector was serving a 3.5-year sentence. In August, he faced an additional charge of espionage. More national and international news coming up on World Report at 7. Back here at home, a Winnipeg Resource Centre hopes that you get a new phone this holiday season because Sunshine House is seeking your old smartphone. The devices will go to people in need, including members of the 2SL LGBTQ+ community who are facing homelessness. Jenny Henkelman with Sunshine House says not everyone has a mobile device. She says it can really help someone looking for work or for a place to live.
It can be a game changer if someone just simply doesn't have the resources to get a smartphone on their own. If we can have the ability to provide them with that, it could really improve their life.
Sunshine House is looking for donated phones, tablets, or laptops from 2018 or newer in good working condition and reset to factory settings. And you need a new leash on life? Well, Winnipeg Animal Services is letting out its adoptable dogs during an open house tonight. Jennifer Harrower is the acting general manager of the agency. She says there are some very playful pups there ready to mingle.
Our play yards will be open, so we will have some toys and treats out for the dogs. We will also be serving some hot chocolate and sweet treats for the humans. And we're just hoping that we get a good turnout with the public and spread some love with the dogs in our shelter.
That event's happening from 3 till 6 this afternoon at 1057 Logan Avenue. So if you need some puppy
Doggy love.
cuddles in time for the holidays.
Everyone needs puppy cuddles in time
Exactly.
for the holidays, in my humble opinion, Riley Lachuk. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Riley's in for Heather Wells this Christmas Eve. Abby, we've got some things that we'll be sharing through the morning and kind of dropping in here. So
Bring it in.
this is sort of, we had the Nutcracker contest. The tickets are gone, we're sorry, but we still have emails that we haven't gotten through. And these are about childhood memories. Some of them around the holidays. This one's perfect for today. Josephine Molenbeek wrote in, my favorite childhood memory was going to church on Christmas Eve and walking up to the nativity scene with my cousins and just looking at the figurines and the lights. And then after Mass, we go to my grandma's. We stayed up way too late opening presents. And I remember one time I bit into a cookie that wasn't quite thawed and I lost a tooth. But then Santa and the Tooth Fairy visited in the same night. What a treat. Bonus, Josephine, except for the lost tooth, of course. But if you want to write to us, this is the time of year, I think, where all the stories come out, right? The memories, the stories, whether they're funny or melancholy or bright or beautiful. What are you thinking about this Christmas Eve morning? Getting ready for Hanukkah, of course. Tomorrow night at sundown, too. So I think just a lot of people might want to share.
Back in Nigeria, childhood memories I have is a Christmas morning after church. My mom would be busy cooking. She doesn't go for the first service. She's busy making the breakfast and everything. And then when we return from church, she has like the food in this little takeout bowls, ceramic plate, and then we have to take it to uncles around, right? And I'm always like, filtering out that uncle I don't want to go to his house, because the idea is when you go drop off the food, they always give you a tip. I'm older than Candy, for crying out loud. I want money, not like.
The trick was to pick the right uncle to deliver to, so you got what you wanted.
So I'm always like having some bucks in my pocket.
Yeah. So I know you're the best uncle now to your nephew and nieces. So.
Yeah, so I'm definitely going to reciprocate that.
All right, let's get into the regional forecast this morning, Adam.
Yeah, let's start off from Winnipeg and the Red River Valley regions. We're looking at -9 with drifting snow at the airport in Winnipeg at this time. Cloudy conditions, we'll see slight chance of flurries in the forecast, so even some freezing drizzles might be spotted here and there, and then that should clear this morning. The winds will ease from breezy to light. We'll see highs around -1. Heading west to Brandon, -11 we're looking at this time for that region, seeing some misty conditions that will be hanging around. Brandon, the Westman region will see mainly cloudy skies with a slight chance of flurries in the forecast. That should clear this afternoon. The winds will be light. We'll see highs around -3, and then some clear and calm condition into Christmas Day for folks in Brandon. In the South Central region, Morden is actually sitting at -10 at this time. Cloudy skies you're seeing. We do have that slight chance of flurries and some freezing drizzle in the forecast this morning. Conditions will clear through the day. Highs will be similar to Winnipeg. We're going to get to -1 for that region. Now in the Parkland region, Dauphin is at -6. It is clear out there. We should see some cloudy conditions later in the day and then some flurries in the forecast. That should clear off, and then highs around -2. Gimli is at -9 at this time. Cloudy conditions we're also seeing. We do have that slight chance of flurries also for that region. Some freezing drizzle might be spotted this morning. That will clear this afternoon. Highs around -1. For the Pamphlet Flon, we're looking at temperatures around -7. Expect a mainly cloudy day. A slim chance of flurries in the forecast. That should clear. High around -4. And for the Thompson and Churchill region, we're seeing Thompson at -8 and Churchill at -6. And highs for both regions will be around -3 and -4. I don't see wind chill in the forecast for today, Marcy. It's just more like a Christmas Eve package for everybody. Just have that calm, all is well, all is nice.
I hope so.
And all is calm.
And strong winds.
Yeah. Stop it, man. Say optimism.
I know. But you kind of can't change the forecast.
Yeah, so that's just what, and just slight chance of flurries and some, freezing drizzle and winds in focus.
Yeah, thank you, Abby.
Thank you.
All right, May McKillop is in to talk about the traffic line, and also just remind you that you can call if you have a problem, right?
You can call if you have a problem. We have no calls so far, but I'll let our listeners know about a couple of highway conditions. Highway 83, partly covered, a little bit slippery from Roblin area to Elkhorn, as well reduced visibility west of Brandon along Highway 1 all the way north to Highway 45 in Rossbourne and south to Delaware area. Looking in Winnipeg here, I can see the east and north perimeter is partly covered and a little bit slippery. As well, we have some reduced visibility on Highway 59 south of the city and Highway 3. So safe travels to everyone outside of the city on those highways, and anything that you're seeing getting in the way of your commute, let me know and I can let our fellow listeners know. Give me a call, 204-788-3093.
All right, thanks, May. And call us as well. What are you up to early this morning? We'd love to hear that. 788-3205 if you want to leave a message. Crystalie Ramlakan is here with our business news. Good morning to you.
Hi, good morning, Marcy.
So this isn't very festive. The the Competition Bureau is suing Rogers. So why is this?
Yeah, and this is for allegedly misleading consumers about offering unlimited data under some phone plans. So Canada's antitrust regulator says ads from Rogers created a false or misleading impression that its phone plans provided limitless data. And then in reality, the plans have data caps, and once reached, the transfer speed is reduced by over 99%. Now, Rogers says the plans represent the norm here in Canada, and it says it will fight these claims. And it also says that these plans were introduced back in 2019. So the telecom says the Bureau's decision to single out Rogers after 5 years is quite concerning. But still, the Competition Bureau has filed an application with the Competition Tribunal. It says it wants Rogers to stop what it calls misleading advertising, pay a penalty, and issue restitution to impacted customers.
Next, you have a story about a big change at department store Nordstrom, right?
Yes, so the chain is going private now in a $6.25 billion deal with its founding family. So the family and Mexican department store chain El Puerto de Liverpool will acquire the remaining shares they don't already own, giving the family a majority ownership stake in the 123-year-old company. So shareholders will receive about $25 a share, and the family actually tried taking the retailer private back in 2018 for $50 a share, but at the time the board had said that was too low of a price. So yesterday's announcement is quite the decline from the company's pre-pandemic peak, with its stock worth roughly half since then. Now, like other department stores, Nordstrom has suffered from consumers cutting back on discretionary spending and shifting their habits to online rivals such as Amazon. And we know that Nordstrom closed all of its stores in Canada last year. But analysts say that this change will actually allow the Nordstrom family to make the necessary investments and changes away from the short-term scrutiny of public markets. And they say that's actually a positive thing for the long-term health of the brand. And, you know, department stores are at a crossroads right now. So, for example, rivals Macy's and Bloomingdale's are under pressure from their investors who think the company's real estate might be more valuable than their actual retail operations. Also, earlier this year, Saks Fifth Avenue and Neiman Marcus merged, giving them more leverage to negotiate with luxury brands for lower costs. And so, Marcy, this Nordstrom deal is expected to close early next year, but still has to be approved by 2/3 of the company's common stockholders.
And why has a furniture company started a petition to ban reclining on airplanes?
Yes, so this is part of a tongue-in-cheek campaign from Lazy Boy, which is known for its plush, oversized reclining chairs. So a video from the company shows the reasons why reclining your seat on an airplane has morphed from an acceptable practice to an irritant for many passengers. So with smaller seats more crammed together, reclining can result in spilled drinks, crunched laptop screens, and crushed knees. So the campaign includes a petition imploring travelers to do the upright thing and recline at home, not on your flight.
Cheeky. Yeah, as you said.
Yes. So the company says the petition has more than 186,000 signatures. Of course, those signing the pledge includes the chance to win a recliner and $500 in airfare, so that might be part of it. Plus, the company will get your information, which they can use to send marketing emails and messages if you accept. But I think, Marcy, what do? Do you recline or not recline?
You know what's funny? I always think, and then I feel bad, and then I recline, but not always. And I often just sort of like try to take the temperature. So when you recline and you hear this behind you, like you hear the person behind you, and like if they're really like they sound really like annoyed, sometimes I'll gently put it back up, like I'm sorry, thought you had more leg room.
Yeah, I know. I try not to decline because I'm like, is it really giving me that much more comfort? I feel like I can barely even tell the difference between reclined and not reclined. So,
I know. Yeah. All right, what's going on in the markets this Christmas Eve morning?
So in Europe, markets are trading higher. Right now, Germany is down, but the UK and France are both up. In Asia, markets are mixed. Japan is down. Shanghai and Hong Kong are both up. Oil is up 52 cents to $69.76 US per barrel. Gold is up $1.70 to $2,614.30 US per ounce. And the dollar is down 0.14 of a cent to 69.5 cents US.
You have happy holidays. Thanks so much, Crystalie.
Yes, you too, Marcy. I hope you have some nice time off and some nice time with family and to celebrate.
Yeah, I'm right back at you. You take care.
Okay, bye.
That's Crystalie Ramlichan with our business news on CBC. Well, in a moment, we're going to be talking about Ukraine facing its third holiday season of war. And on this Christmas Eve morning, this is not a political comment of any kind, but just as a human being looking at the state of the world and looking at all the conflicts all over the world and what's happening, obviously in the Middle East, but in so many other regions, we figure that we should give John Lennon a moment. As you can hear, we're having technical problems. That was our lead-in to playing Happy Christmas, War is Over, but we are having problems hearing it, so we're sorry. Time right now is 6:47 a.m. on 89.3 FM, 990 a.m. on the app. Oh, there it is.
So happy Christmas for black and for white, for yellow and red one. Let's stop all the fight. Merry, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Let's hope it's a good one without any fear. So this is Christmas, and what have we done? Another year over, and the new one just begun. And I'm so happy Christmas. We hope you have fun. The here
All of those all those adult carols, right? That one and adult Christmas wish list. And yeah, they get me every year. Obviously, it's setting up our next interview to talk about where war is not over in the world. Let's turn our attention this morning to the people of Ukraine. They face a third holiday season now in wartime. It means power blackouts. It means Russian missile attacks. It means soldiers on the battlefield. To talk about some of the latest developments, Andrew Rasulis is here, a fellow with the Canadian Global Affairs Institute. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Marcy.
So what is morale like right now?
Steady, but challenged. The reason is that the Russians have, well, for the last year for sure, if not longer, waged a very intense aerial bombardment campaign against Ukraine's energy grid throughout much of the country. The result is the Ukrainians have not been able to keep up with the level of damage in terms of the repairs. And so rolling blackouts throughout much of the country have been instituted. And, of course, you can imagine, even though daily life continues, because of the blackouts, there are times when the fridge doesn't work, the heat doesn't come on, and that gets to people over time. So we are seeing, although not a breaking of morale, an ebbing of morale in terms of a determination to fight to the end, if you will. There are now polling which suggests for the first time that a very slight majority of Ukrainians are actually prepared to be, or they're open-minded to see some kind of a negotiated settlement in which they give up some of that territory that the Russians occupy in exchange for a security guarantee. But yeah, that's where we're going. Holding steady but challenged.
Can you tell us more specifics about the recent Russian missile attack on Kiev?
So that one became noteworthy, not so much because of the intensity of the attack. It was less intense than some of the others recently, but it's noteworthy because even though Ukrainian air defense shot down almost all or most of the incoming Russian missiles and drones, debris from what was shot down happened to hit an office building in downtown Kyiv, which houses foreign diplomatic missions, embassies. And so that's the story, in the sense that a building that houses foreign embassies sustained, minor or light damage, and that's really what that's about.
What do we know about the North Koreans who are fighting for Russia in Ukraine right now?
The most of the information we get there are from the South Korean intelligence sources, and they're telling us that the North Korean troops, which of course have no previous combat experience, since North Korea has not fought a war, conventional war, since the Korean War in the 50s, they are, of course, experiencing or learning the hard way in live combat. They're sustaining significant casualties, which the South Koreans estimate as, thus far, 1,000 North Korean troops as casualties. That's a combination of killed and wounded. And the South Koreans are also estimating that additional reinforcements of North Korean forces are being sent to Russia at some point in time in the near future.
You mentioned that there's starting to be some discussion that perhaps at least people are feeling that some of Ukraine could be overtaken. What are more of the specifics about what we understand of what's being discussed in terms of what each side is now talking about, if there is a ceasefire arrangement?
Yeah, so there are three components. The first one is territorial, and it's about the disposition of the territory that Russia occupies. And most scenarios suggest that one, the Russians will de facto practically hold on to it. The Ukrainians are more or less going to agree that the disposition of that, or the retaking of that territory, can only be accomplished through diplomatic means in the longer term. They simply lack the military ability to do it. The second element, a much more complicated element, is the security guarantee for the remainder of Ukraine, the 80% of Ukraine. And that ranges in a wide spectrum of options that are being discussed, which ranges anything from bilateral security guarantees for Ukraine from the European great powers, plus possibly the United States, And at the far end of that scenario is actual NATO membership for Ukraine. So those are all in the mix, and nothing is off the table functionally, even though some people say it is, until it's actually done. The third element is really about the longer term, and it's something called the European Security Architecture negotiation. That would be to provide a longer term sort of roof or cement for whatever is agreed at in the short term for this war, to provide some kind of measure of stability longer term, because nobody really wants this agreement to come apart. And nobody's looking for a frozen conflict, and a war is 6 months from now. I think everybody is tired of the war, and everybody wants to find a comprehensive security agreement that will bring stability and peace to Europe.
Thanks very much for the update, Andrew. Appreciate it, and happy holidays to you.
You're very welcome, Marcy.
That's Andrew Rasoulis, fellow with the Canadian Global Affairs Institute, giving us an update on what's happening in Ukraine. It is 4 minutes to 7 o'clock now on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. This is CBC on Christmas Eve morning, and you are already calling, telling us what you're up to.
Good morning, Marcy. This is Becky Lett. I'm up this morning. I have a half day of work, squeezing in a doctor's appointment, and then I'm spending the afternoon finishing things up for tomorrow, where we are going to be coordinating Christmas dinner with my husband and his family. It's been a fun journey putting it all together, and looking forward to spending tomorrow with my niece and nephews and the rest of his family. I'll be missing my family in Ontario, but this is also a very good, quiet, cozy Christmas. Merry Christmas. Bye-bye.
Happy holidays. Merry Christmas to you as well. I love that. Valerie Wolbert's going to work for the Salvation Army Christmas kettles today. That's important work. And I posted on Facebook, are you up slapping the turkey bird? And Squirrely Q wrote in, slapping the turkey bird, do you mean prepping? She said, no turkey, but I'm prepping rice pudding and Mille crepes cake. That sounds amazing. I did mean, Riley Lachuk, who's here with headlines, I did mean slapping the turkey bird.
Okay.
There's this story on our show years ago, I can't remember if it was Thanksgiving or Christmas, where we asked this question, what are you up early doing? And this listener called in, and she described how she takes the turkey and she talks to it, and then she gives it a big old slap on its behind, on its rump, before she puts it in the oven. And she said, we call it slapping the turkey bird.
It's like a good luck charm.
I know.
Before you cook it.
So I always think of that. I think of that story every year. So anyway, you can write to us. You can call us. Riley's here with more serious business with our news.
I will start with some developing news that's just coming in the last 15 minutes or so. American Airlines has grounded all of its flights this morning due to an unspecified technical issue, of course, putting holiday travel plans up in the air for millions of people. No impacts here in Winnipeg yet, but this could have impacts down the line, of course, if you're traveling elsewhere over the course of the day today. We'll watch the latest on that from World Report coming up. And Winnipeggers can go on a doggy date, or if the mood is right, maybe take a lucky dog home for the holidays. Adoptable dogs are getting ready to mingle with the public during an annual open house by Winnipeg Animal Services today. We'll bring you more details on that coming up after 7.
All right, quite a story about American Airlines.
Exactly.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
It is blowing snow, -9 in Winnipeg. We'll be at a high of -1 for Christmas Eve, and it will be windy and gusty. Winds south 30 to 50. The highways, check before you go. 511 could be a little slick. Watch for equipment in the city, and it's going to be a busy day, but we don't have anything to report that's major right now. 788-3093 if you need us. In the next hour of Information Radio, we're going to have a conversation about how to cope with the loss of a loved one during the holidays. We have a death doula. She's going to join us with some tips about setting boundaries and self-care. It can be a stressful time of year. And then to the brighter side, they're not professional singers, but when you hear them perform, I bet it'll be music to your ears. We're going to meet the Filipino choir, known as the Musica Singers of Manitoba. And then the Festival of Lights begins tomorrow night at sundown. We're going to talk to a member of the Jewish community here. They're preparing to light the menorah. All still ahead on Information Radio. Stay with us.
Today on The Current.
Well, that solves one mystery. What happened after that?
I'm Mark Kelly. We're celebrating this year's Order of Canada recipients, from Murdoch Mysteries creator Maureen Jennings to singer Heather Rankin to a world expert in maternal and child health. They're all coming up on The Current.
The Current, this morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm Marcia Young. Police in Hong Kong are offering million-dollar bounties for information that leads to the arrest of 6 activists. The activists are based in Canada and United Kingdom, and they're wanted for national security offenses following the 2019 anti-government protests. Many of those pro-democracy leaders have been jailed. Others fled abroad. But police announced 6 new warrants this morning. It is a signal Hong Kong is still cracking down on political dissent. British Columbia's south coast is preparing for a series of windy winter storms. The first has already blown through, but forecasters warn there is more wind and rain coming. As Mira Baines tells us, it could cause power outages and delay some holiday travel plans.
Quite the opposite of a white Christmas.
Environment Canada meteorologist Chris Doyle says BC's west coast will be hit with strong winds and heavy rain on Wednesday. But this upcoming series of winter storms won't be bringing cold.
And through Christmas, it's going to be warm across the entire province, even in those areas up in the northwestern part of British Columbia and the Peace.
He says storm systems have been moving fast, pointing out Wednesday's storm originated in the southwestern Pacific near the Philippines. Extreme weather conditions have already resulted in numerous ferry cancellations, seaplane flights, and a landslide in which 2 people were killed in the town of Lions Bay near Squamish. BC Hydro spokesperson Moira Scott says emergency crews have been busy this season.
We have experienced 3 significant events already this storm season, 2 in November and then 1 in December, that have resulted in hundreds of thousands of customers being impacted.
One of the reasons is drought, which has weakened trees, making them more vulnerable to gusting winds. She says BC Hydro crews are on standby over the holidays and ready to be deployed to other parts of the province if necessary. Mira Baines, CBC News, Vancouver.
4 heli-skiers and their guide have been rescued from an avalanche just north of Whistler near Pemberton, BC. They were buried in the snow yesterday morning. RCMP Constable Antoine Grabling says the heli-skiers are lucky there was another group nearby. They started rescue efforts almost immediately.
2 out of the 5 people were buried for an amount of time equal or greater than 10 minutes. So we're very fortunate that this didn't result in any loss of life.
All the skiers are in stable condition. The RCMP says this avalanche is believed to have been caused by the heli-skiing. American Airlines has requested a nationwide shutdown of its operations. The company says an unspecified technical issue is to blame. This means the cancellation of flights for thousands of passengers on this Christmas Eve morning. Officials have not said when they expect operations will resume. Ontario banned cell phones for 4 high school students in the classrooms 3 months ago. The transition away from mobile devices has been difficult. Students and teachers say they're starting to get used to the new rule. The CBC's Jamie Strachan reports.
It's lunchtime at Toronto's Humberside Collegiate, and it seems like nearly every one of the school's 1,500 students is on their phones. It's hard not to be, says student Alex Perry.
That's literally it. It's a drug. Everybody's like, you get addicted to it.
In September, it was cold turkey for Ontario high school students, the latest province to ban cell phones in classes for grades 7 to 12. Principal Claudine Tyrell helped design the Toronto District School Board's cell policy.
It's a culture shift. Let's be real. We know that, even as adults, we have a heavy reliance on it.
After a rocky start, she says there is an acceptance that things have changed. The schools even installed charging stations where students can store their phones.
We're reducing the distractions that take place in school, and we're saying, put it away and let's work together.
Still, there are growing pains, says Alex Perry.
We have to enforce it fully in all of our classes. So it's not like some in some classes and less in the others, it's all the classes 100%.
The biggest question, has it improved academic performance? It's too early to say, says teacher Albert Bangma.
It is really hard to judge. I think that the students don't love it, and that often is a good thing to a certain extent.
Principal Tyrell says the next step, doing a better job explaining to students there can be happiness and success without their phones. Jamie Strachan, CBC News, Toronto.
And an update on that American Airlines story we just brought you. They have now lifted the ground stop, and American Airlines flights are resuming in northwest Turkey. Rescue workers survey the rubble of an ammunitions factory. At least 12 people are dead in an explosion there. 4 others were injured. It happened in the city of Balikasir. The local government says the explosion caused the capsule production building to collapse. Officials say they do not know the cause, but they have ruled out sabotage. Turkey's justice minister has launched an investigation. In Damascus, hundreds of Christians protest in the streets of Syria's capital. A Christmas tree that had been set up in the central city of Hama was burned down. A video posted online shows hooded vandals setting it on fire. It's been just over 2 weeks since Islamist rebels took over the country. People in Syria's Christian communities have been afraid of how they would be treated by the new regime. But in an online video, a member of the ruling group, HTS, said those who torched the Christmas tree were not Syrian. He says they will be punished and the tree will be restored. In Pakistan, security forces are being deployed outside some churches as part of Christmas preparations. The country's blasphemy law carries the death penalty, and it's been used to target the Christian minority. Hira Mustafa reports from Islamabad.
Many Pakistani Christians are meeting family members and friends for small, private Christmas celebrations, like 34-year-old Rahila Emmanuel, who says her family is forced to keep a low profile and avoid public displays of their faith.
We have this mob culture in Pakistan, which is threatening us every day.
Rahila fears extremist groups who target those accused of disrespecting Muslim religious norms.
While going out of the home, we have to think first that if we are safe.
Under Pakistan's blasphemy laws, people who insult Islam can be sentenced to death, and simply being accused of blasphemy can lead to attacks. In 2023, a mob in the city of Jarawala burned homes and vandalized churches.
It's a personal revenge people taking from each other.
Father Nasser William is priest at the Roman Catholic Diocese in Islamabad.
They investigate after, first they give punishment.
In November, the UN Human Rights Committee called for Pakistan's blasphemy laws to be repealed or amended. And Pakistan's Human Rights Commission says 2024 was one of the worst for the Christians, who make up about 2% of the population. A record 700 people were arrested this year on blasphemy charges. Hira Mustafa for CBC News, Islamabad.
Canada's film industry is anticipating a big year ahead. Much of that could be thanks to the low Canadian dollar. This morning, the loonie sits at around 69 cents US. That may be putting a strain on Canadians traveling stateside. But as the CBC's Taylor Bratt explains, it is doing the opposite for American film companies eyeing Canadian locations.
If you don't think there's hope for the world, why bother going on?
The Last of Us was named the largest production to ever be filmed in Alberta, according to the Motion Picture Association of Canada. The post-apocalyptic TV series is part of a wave of U.S. productions choosing to film in the country, and there are several reasons why, according to Michelle Wong. She's the head of business affairs at production company 724 Films in Calgary.
Of course, it's right next door to the U.S. We speak their language. Our culture is very similar. We're known as a hardworking country.
On top of tax incentives and dynamic landscapes, she says the low dollar could be another feather in our cap.
When the dollar goes down, that means a lot more production is going up.
Wong knows this because it's happened before. In 2002, the Canadian dollar reached an all-time low of 61 cents against its U.S. counterpart. And Damien Petty agrees. He's the president of Local 212 of the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees in Calgary.
That was a very, very busy year for production, not just in Alberta, but nationally.
As an Albertan, he sees competition heating up between the provinces.
We have to look at what those other jurisdictions are doing. It's a very competitive, bottom line driven industry.
We have a greater purpose than any of us could have ever imagined.
And as for The Last of Us Season 3 filming in Canada, Petty says right now everyone is waiting for a decision from HBO. Taylor Bratt, CBC News, Calgary.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, Manitoba. I'm Marcy Marcusa, and this is Information Radio on 89.3 FM, 990 AM, on the app and on YouTube. Happy Christmas Eve morning. A lot of you are already writing to us and showing us some beautiful pictures of what you're up making this morning. A Bermuda cassava pie. I can never say that quite correctly, but Crystal Simmons sent us a photo of this. Looks gorgeous. And Alicia's Modenska Bolowitz wrote in, she's preparing for an onslaught of adult kids and grandkids. So get ready for the busy. Here we go. This hour on the program, it is a joyful time of year, but it is also a very difficult time of year if you've lost someone. So this half hour, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about someone who has experience coping with all of the emotions of dealing with the holidays. And she's got some really valuable things to say about when to feel those emotions and when to step out and say, you know what? No traditions for me this year. Thank you. So that conversation's coming up. In addition, we are going to be talking about the Festival of Lights. Remember, Hanukkah begins tomorrow night at sundown. We'll talk to a member of our local Jewish community as they prepare to light the menorah. And let's go to more headlines and news right now with Riley Lechuk.
Good morning. The mayor of Winnipeg says he is confident the province will eventually agree to a new municipal funding model. Scott Gillingham has been unsuccessfully pressing Premier Wab Kinew for a new formula that includes some form of growth-based revenue. We'll have more on that in a year-end interview with the mayor at 7:30. And a Winnipeg Resource Centre hopes that you get a new smartphone this holiday season. Sunshine House is seeking your old smartphones. They're looking for devices that will go to people in need, including members of the 2SL LGBTQ plus community who are facing homelessness. I'll bring you more on that story and more local news coming up at 7:30.
All right, thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
Riley Lechuk in, obviously, for Heather Wells. Let's get to the forecast with Abby.
Mostly cloudy skies across the province with a slight chance of flurries in many regions, but that should clear as we get into the day. Currently -8 in Winnipeg. We're seeing drifting snow still being reported at the airport. Today, cloudy conditions, that slim chance of flurries and freezing drizzle this morning. That will clear this afternoon. We spotted some fog patches earlier. It will be dissipating. Winds will be light. The high will be around -1 for today. Right now, it is -8.
We're about to get into traffic in a moment, but first, Abby, you and I were talking earlier about some of the traditions, and if you're religious, obviously, this is big time for church. When I was growing up, I can't remember if it was Christmas or Easter. I think this story, May McKillop's here too, so just bring May in here. Hi, May.
Yeah, hi.
Waiting to do traffic, and there's nothing urgent, which is why I'm droning on. But when I was younger, I think it was Christmas or it might have been Easter because I was dressed up. I have this memory. I grew up Catholic, always going to church. And so if you're Catholic, then you know that often you have a confessional that you go into. So this is a church on Watt Street, that Holy Eucharist Parish that's there. My family actually was always very involved there. My uncles actually sheeted the domes. They were carpenters.
Oh, wow.
At any rate, we always went there. I was married there. It was a big part of my family. But when I was young, and I mean, I probably was maybe 11, something like that, I went into the confessional booth. And imagine now you go into this sort of wood closet, and then you can look through sort of mesh to see the priest on the other side, and then you're confessing, and he's going to say, leave and do some Hail Marys, or that's how it works. So I went in there, except the priest was like sort of leaning over and like kind of unresponsive. And his name was Father Chernovatsky, and I will never forget it. And I was sort of like, Father Chernovatsky, like, you know, and I was like, psst, you know, I'm doing that. And then I'm like, I'd like to make my confession. And I was trying to say things like, I'd be like, Hail Mary. Like I was just throwing out little lines, trying to see or whatever. Anyway, and then I thought like maybe like something serious happened. Ooh. So I come out and my eyes are like as wide as saucers, and I see this line of people waiting. Ooh. And I look at the person behind me and I just kind of go like, no, like, you know, and then they're looking at me like, what are you talking about? So they go in. Okay. And now I go back and like I'm like terrified. I'm like, what happened in there? So I walk back to the pew. I'm sitting by my mom, but all I'm doing is like looking behind me, like, is he gonna come out? Are they gonna come out? Whatever. And I didn't tell anyone. And then everybody kept going through the line, so I figured it was fine. I thought he died in there. Oh my God! Like I have this childhood memory. I was so scared, and then I watched all Mass long. I stared at that confessional.
That whole time.
And you didn't tell anybody.
No, I was terrified. And then finally, Father Chernovatsky emerged.
Oh.
He had fallen asleep in the confessional.
Oh.
Wow.
Yep. So.
How old were you?
Oh, maybe 11, something like that.
And you just held on to that?
I did.
Oh,
Yeah.
Marcy.
I
I'm
was
so sorry.
scared.
I feel so sorry.
Really? I don't feel trauma from it. I actually think it's really kind of a great story.
You were not listened to. That's how I see it.
Well,
looking back, it's pretty hilarious.
It is. Maybe
It
a
is
higher
hilarious.
power heard me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every time I go to confession after that, I'm knocking on the thing. Hey, you. Anyway, let's get into what's going on. Abby talked about the weather today being mild. And so far, I think this is good news. We've had no calls, or have you had
We've
any?
had no calls, and I take that as a good sign, especially on a day like today. I imagine a lot of people are staying home instead of getting out on the roads. We're seeing some blurry conditions, some windy conditions, particularly in the western side of the province, past Brandon on Highway number 1. Some partially covered roads and also some low visibility. So that's what I'm seeing so far. But if there's stuff going on along the province, in the city of Winnipeg, anywhere really, we want to know about it, and we can pass along that message to your fellow listeners. So give me a call, 204-788-3093.
Well, let's talk about grief over the holidays because it can feel really overwhelming, especially if you've lost a loved one. It's difficult on your mental health to begin with, and now it's holidays. So whether you're dealing for the death of someone for the first time, in the holiday season, missing them, or maybe it's ongoing grief for another reason, it's difficult at this time of year. Rain Foy Vachon is a death doula with Dying to Help end-of-life services, and I recently spoke with Rain about this. I, like most people, have folks in my life that are dealing with specific grief this holiday season. So I'm really, really mindful of that. What's the specific effect that grief has on a human being during the holidays?
You really can't. There's not just one thing. You can't really pinpoint one thing. There's so many different things because everybody experiences grief so differently. So it can be isolating. You can experience joy, anger, sadness. You want to be with your family. You may not want to be. There's resentment. There's heartbreak. It's compounded. And it's even more compounded because of the holidays. And if this is a new death, this is the new, new holidays where you won't be with your loved ones who have just died, then it's very traumatic and people don't know what to do with themselves. So I have a few things that I discuss with my clients. I have about 10 different things.
Yeah, I want to walk through a few of these things. So I just want to ask first about setting boundaries with holiday events, because you might be going through all these complex things, and then the same things are happening around you. How do you set those boundaries? Do you have advice around that to start with?
I do. Say no. Don't feel obligated. We have these ridiculous family, friends obligations, even when there isn't grief. So feel comfortable saying no. Just say no. Give yourself just some grace and let go of the pressure to make everything perfect. Communicate those limits with your family, your friends. Let them know what you can and cannot manage. And just adjust your holiday traditions to match your emotional capacity. You don't have to do everything that you did last year. Maybe just do one or two things. Maybe just do one thing.
How do you acknowledge?
And it's okay to say no.
How do you acknowledge grief without sinking into it? Is that something valuable to think about, or do you allow yourself whatever you need in those moments, whether it's sinking or not?
That's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing. I like to tell people grief care is self-care. So as a death doula, I tell my clients to sink into it, because that's part of the healing journey. And don't feel bad if you're angry or upset around people, because that's part of the journey. So be ready and give yourself grace and flexibility to honor your feelings, whatever those might be.
You understand how to specific feeling around shortbread after the loss of your mom.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I was lost. I didn't know what to do. It was a family recipe going back a couple of generations. Every year my mother made shortbread. And the first Christmas without her, I didn't know what to do. I was angry that I wasn't getting my shortbread, that she wasn't here to make it. I had the recipe, but I chose not to do it. But the next year, and that was 8 years ago, and every year since then, I've been making that shortbread. And it feels really nice because it's a part of just a little bit of my mom with me every Christmas.
What suggestions do you have about creating new or different traditions, but then also making space for some of the old ones as well? Is it just to give yourself time to figure out when you're ready? Your shortbread example is kind of like that, I guess. This year I'm not doing it, but then, oh, hang on,
Yeah.
I'm going to start doing this.
Exactly. Maybe the first year you don't do anything like that. Maybe you light a candle in memory of the person. How about you share some stories with your loved ones? And always remember that laughter is a good thing. So sharing those stories, laughing, remembering, donating or volunteering in your loved one's honor is always a nice thing to do as well.
What are some of the specific coping skills that people have shared that that have worked for people that you counsel?
I do grief support. There's rest. I always tell people, don't feel bad for just saying, no, I need to stay home today and rest. Try to eat. If you don't feel like cooking, get people to bring you some food, make a plate. Physical activity is so important for your mental well-being. So, in the winter time, it's cold right now, but try to bundle up, maybe go outside for a quick little walk or do whatever you like doing outside, drink some soothing tea. A big thing I tell people to do is journal. Start journaling, right? And it doesn't even have to make sense. Just write what you're feeling down and it gets it out of your mind. It helps you just deal with what you're experiencing at the moment. Read a book, just do something other than just sitting there and thinking and crying, and just get out of your head for a few minutes. You acknowledge your feelings, give yourself permission to grieve. I think we talked about that. We set realistic expectations and boundaries, create new traditions, take care of yourself, seek support. That's a really big thing. If you don't have a grief counselor or therapist, there's grief support groups out there. Try to find people who are experiencing the same thing that you are, and just to talk, that is very helpful. And also focus on gratitude and joy when possible. And I was talking a little bit about laughing, because laughing, as we know, increases the endorphins released by your brain, and that really helps just for a couple of minutes, right? And it's nice just to remember those stories with your loved ones. And always be flexible with social gatherings. Always be flexible, engage in acts of kindness, donate to a charity or a community event. And big one is allow yourself some grace. Just give yourself some grace, allow yourself to grieve in your own way and at your own pace, even if others don't seem, even if your other family members have moved on, doesn't mean you have to move on.
Thank you so very much for this, Rain. Really valuable, and I'll wish you a peaceful season.
Thank you, Marcy. I appreciate that very much. The same to you.
That's Rain Foy-Vachon, a death doula with Dying to Help end-of-life services locally.
Which category of ads are the worst?
Tell your doctor about other medications you're taking, or if you experience muscle pain or weakness.
Who's the best celebrity you've worked with?
When does it quit becoming rustic and start becoming ramshackle? It's...
Why do commercials use so much classical music? You watch the ads, you've got your questions. Ask Terry O'Reilly on Under the Influence, Thursday morning at 11:30, 3:30 p.m. in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
Time right now is 7:25 on Christmas Eve. It's -9 in Winnipeg. And I'm just going to check what's going on with hot and cold spots. Brandon's -13, that's the cold spot. Dawson's -4, that's the warm spot. And Winnipeg, in fact, we gained a degree. We're at -8 right now. Winds are south 34, gusting up to 49 kilometers per hour with snow grains out there. So could get a little bit dicey if you're walking or biking this morning. A high of -1. is what we're looking for Christmas Eve. And the winds are going to be a bit strong and gusty through the day. Winds south 30 to 50. Right now in Brandon, it is misty. It's -13. And speaking of Dauphin, I mentioned -4 and mainly clear. Up in Thompson this hour, drifting snow. And it is -8. Well, let's talk hockey. Khalil Hassanali is in for Scott Reguer this morning. Hello to you.
Good morning, Marcy.
So let's talk about the Jets. They were able to exact a bit of revenge on the Maple Leafs yesterday.
Yes. So it was Toronto who handed the Jets their only blemish on the scorecard when they had that incredible start to the season, winning 15 of their first 16 games. The Jets have probably been stewing on that loss to Toronto since before Halloween. And yesterday it was payback time. So Kyle Connor, usually with a pair of goals, you're going to be the talking point. But Mark Scheifele had something to say about that. He notched that hat trick in the win. Scheifele grew up about an hour outside Toronto, and he has relished the opportunity to play against the Buds throughout his career. He's now got 41 points in 30 games against them. That includes now 19 goals. He says he loves getting up for this matchup, but he joked also that he wished more hats were thrown onto the ice after that third goal.
I was hoping I was gonna see a couple right away, but maybe the Jets fans couldn't get the seats closer to the ice. It is always fun. Obviously, I love coming to Toronto just because I have the opportunity to play in front of a lot of friends and family, and it being so close to home. So obviously, I get a little extra excited to play here. So getting the win before the break is huge.
So Ottawa comes to town on Saturday. Where do the Jets sit right now as we are going into that Christmas break? Well, they're first in the Central Division and well on their way to earning yet another playoff berth, Marcy.
Let's go to Canada's World Junior Hockey Team, which is set for this year's tournament. It does, of course, begin on Boxing Day.
Pre-tournament action wrapped up yesterday in our nation's capital. Speaking of Ottawa, the Team Canada, they squeaked out a 3-2 win over the Czech Republic, and that's thanks to their youngest player, Gavin McKenna, who just turned 17 on Friday. He had a pair of goals, including the game winner as time was ticking away in the third period. Then there's Thunder Bay's Carter George. He got the start in net. He spoke afterwards about playing in front of Canadian fans.
Oh, it was awesome. In front of these fans, it was just unbelievable. The atmosphere was great. It got loud in there, and it was just a lot of fun. I think I can clean a few things up. I think as the game went on, I settled into it and calmed down a little bit, and I think made a couple saves for the team, and I'm glad we were able to come out with the victory.
Canada hopes a return to home soil is the recipe for success after a quarterfinal loss last year. There's always pressure on the team to win, and that gets ratcheted up tenfold when it's being held on home soil like this tournament is. First game is against Finland in 2 days' time. Puck drop, 6:30.
And in the NFL, efforts by the Saints did not quite pay off ahead of their game in Green Bay.
So the weather in Louisiana and Wisconsin on December 23rd are a bit different. In New Orleans, I was looking at the forecast. The high today is in the 20s, but in Green Bay, it is -3. So in order to get ready for yesterday's outdoor Monday Night Football game, the Saints went into their cafeteria and practiced in a walk-in freezer. The Saints quarterback coach said he got the idea from watching Cool Runnings, the movie where the Jamaican bobsledders would jump into an ice cream freezer to get prepared for the conditions in Calgary at the '88 Olympics. So how did that work out? Well, unfortunately, not very well for them. They were shut out 34-0. Packers head coach Matt LaFleur talked about the win.
We were able to shut out an opponent. That's really tough to do in the National Football League. And somebody told me it was the first of the season. I mean, that's incredible when you think about what are we, week 16, so 15 games into this thing. And so I thought really the ability to obviously keep them out of the end zone in some critical situations, getting the takeaways was huge.
Anyone looking for sports content on Christmas Day, the NBA has 5 games starting at 11 o'clock. The NFL has 2 games starting at noon, Marcy.
Oh, I wonder how the freezer thing works anyway, because what are you doing in there? Like a short pass? Like really? You're standing around looking at each other?
How much room is there to move in before you run into a guardrail or something?
I know. Or a whole bunch of cans that fall on your head.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Khalil. Happy holidays to you.
You as well.
That's Khalil Hassanali in with Morning Sports for CBC, sitting in for Scott Reguer this morning. If you want to call us about the drive, please let us know. Check Highways 511. Watch for what's happening out there in terms of the conditions. They could get a little bit greasy, especially as the winds pick up. But right now, we're not hearing anything on the commuter line, so we'll take that as good news. 788-3093 if you do want to reach us. Coming up still ahead in this half hour of Information Radio on this Christmas Eve, what they lack in experience, they make up for with heart. That's why the Musica Singers of Manitoba are a hit whenever they hit the stage. Their story is coming up right after your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Riley Lachuk. In Winnipeg at 7:30, it's -9. South winds gusting to 50 at the moment in the city with maybe some flurries this morning. Risk of freezing drizzle. We'll get to a forecast high of -1 this afternoon. The mayor of Winnipeg says he's confident the province will eventually agree to a new funding model for cities. Scott Gillingham has been pressing Premier Wab Kinew for a new formula that includes some form of growth-based revenue. He has not been successful in that so far, but in a year-end interview with CBC News, Gillingham gives this prediction.
I really believe there's coming a time when a premier is going to make that decision to enter into a new funding model with municipalities, one that incentivizes growth and rewards cities for growth.
Provinces like Saskatchewan and Quebec give a fraction of their sales tax to municipalities, but some argue that a sales tax is less stable than a property tax. Well, to the latest on some developing news this morning, holiday travelers had a bit of an uh-oh moment across the U.S. American Airlines is now beginning to resume all flights after an earlier ground stop due to an unspecified technical issue. American Airlines operates thousands of flights per day, including into places like Toronto here in Canada, creating the potential for major disruptions across the continent. Well, it's been a few months since Ontario banned cell phones from high school classrooms, and in Manitoba, you might recall, brought in a similar ban this fall. And while there are growing pains, students and teachers are starting to get used to the new rule. Jamie Strachan has the story.
It's lunchtime at Toronto's Humberside Collegiate, and it seems like nearly every one of the school's 1,500 students is on their phones. It's hard not to be, says student Alex Perry.
That's literally it. It's a drug. Everybody's like, you get addicted to it.
In September, it was cold turkey for Ontario high school students, the latest province to ban cell phones in classes for grades 7 to 12. Principal Claudine Tyrell helped design the Toronto District School Board's cell policy.
Let's be real. We know that, even as adults, we have a heavy reliance on it.
After a rocky start, she says there is an acceptance that things have changed. The schools even installed charging stations where students can store their phones.
We're reducing the distractions that take place in school, and we're saying, put it away.
Principal Tyrell says the next step, doing a better job explaining to students there can be happiness and success without their phones. Jamie Strachan, CBC News, Toronto.
Overseas this morning, the president of Ukraine says North Korean troops have suffered heavy losses fighting for Russia.
Більше 3,000 поранених та вбитих.
Volodymyr Zelensky says more than 3,000 North Korean soldiers have been wounded and killed. They have been deployed in the Kursk region of Russia near the border with Ukraine. Zelensky says Russia treats the North Korean troops as disposable, and more of them are expected to join the fight over the coming months. Former U.S. President Bill Clinton has been admitted to a Washington hospital after suffering from a fever. The 78-year-old is there for testing and observation, according to his deputy chief of staff. Clinton is said to be in good spirits. He was president from 1993 until 2001. Well, if you're getting a new smartphone or tablet this holiday season, a Winnipeg Resource Centre would love to take your old tech off of your hands. Sunshine House is seeking donations of used mobile devices and laptops. Those devices will help the 2S LGBTQ plus community members in need. Jenny Henkelman with Sunshine House says technology has become such a big part of our lives that it's difficult not to have something to make calls on or to send emails with.
All the things that you need when you're, you have medical appointments, you have job interviews, you have apartment viewings, all that stuff. If you don't have that way of connecting and communicating, then you're at a real disadvantage.
Donated phones, tablets, or laptops must be newer than 2018 and must be in good working condition. Sunshine House will issue a tax receipt for those donations. And Winnipeggers can go on a doggy date, or if the mood is right, maybe take a lucky dog home for the holidays. Adoptable dogs are getting getting ready to mingle with the public during an annual open house at Winnipeg Animal Services today. People can play with the dogs, make a donation, adopt a dog, or even go on a doggy date. Jennifer Harrower is the acting general manager of the agency. She says prospective doggy daters need to do an interview first.
But then you can take a dog from us for one day, a couple hours, up to 7 days. So it gives them a break from the shelter life and, bring some happiness to someone that maybe can't have a dog in their apartment or in their home. You can kind of rent a dog from us.
And also that event, by the way, taking place at 1057 Logan between 3 and 6 this afternoon. And that's the CBC News from Winnipeg.
All right. Thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
Let's get into our regional forecast now. I know it's a big travel day and people are likely to be bustling and busy out and about the next few days. So here's Abby having a look at December 24th.
Yeah, we're looking at cloudy conditions and a chance of flurries in most of the regions. Freezing rain is in the forecast, so it means the roads at some point will be slippery if you're going to be traveling out of town, either heading on the number 1, the 53 to 75. You will notice some slippery spots, so you might want to take care. Though the conditions will clear as we get to the afternoon period, and then we'll see some light winds and mild temperatures. Winnipeg at -9. Light snow grains were seen at the airports and fog patches lifting in some parts of the city, but still being spotted here and there. We should see cloudy conditions, and this slight chance of flurries is going to stay with us, and we'll see temperatures steady around -8. And then for tonight, we should see more like the skies will be clearing up. Brandon is at -12 at this time, heading for a high of -9. That fog will stay with you for the day, but then it's going to be lifting also as you get into the day. In the south central region, we're looking at temperatures around -7 at this time. The Parkland at -4, Gimli at -9, the Powerful Flint at -7, Thompson, Churchill both hovering between -8 and -6 at this time. So it's more like a mild one, but that freezing fog and road conditions should be something you need to take into consideration. It might creep up on you unawares, so be careful.
All right. Thank you, Abby.
Thank you.
People are already writing with what they're up doing. Janice wrote in, she made sticky toffee pudding. She feels like her toffee sauce is a bit running. Julie Kentner said she's at her desk till 1 o'clock. Shannon Gerardin's on her way to the office. Michelle Bailey said, I brought out the beast, my culinary partner in crime since the 1990s, to make yet more pierogi dough. And I'm watching the all-time Christmas classic, Bridesmaids. Which I totally love that's what you're watching this Christmas Eve morning. Michelle sent us a picture of her KitchenAid mixer there. That's the beast. I spent some time with mine this week. I did. All right, let's get into the actual commute. May is here with an update.
I am. Hello. So once again, no calls on the commuter line, which I'm going to take as a good sign that people are staying in and staying cozy. We are seeing outside of the city, though, a little bit of poor visibility and some blowing winds and partially covered highways, particularly west of Brandon, running down Highway number 1, north up to about Russell area and south to about Deloraine along the highways in that area. Anything else that's going on, I would love to hear about it. So give me a call and let me know. 204-798-3093.
Thank you, May.
You're welcome.
May McKillop in for Corey this morning. Well, now to the latest in our special series of stories produced by filmmaking students in the CREATE program that's run out of Sisler High School. In collaboration with CBC Manitoba, they create. And this week, we're going to meet the Musica Singers of Manitoba. This is a Filipino choir. They sing traditional songs from the Philippines and Tagalog. They also sing songs in some other languages, including Italian and Maori. And while none of them are professionals, no matter what language they sing in, it is music to the ears. CREATE students Luis Miguel Mangura, as well as Shay Miller and Shai Valensky East, are the producers behind the project.
Singing is de-stressing.
The excitement of working on something
that you would love, and it's a family that we have.
There was a need in the community for a choir of Filipinos. We're known to be good singers. There isn't a choir in the community which will bring out that strength, musical strength of Filipinos. We see Filipinos doing karaoke, doing guitar, but not a real choir intended for to perform Filipino music. Musica Singers was created because of the friendship that has been developed among singers who came together and sang songs for the Winnipeg Jets and the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra, and they decided to continue doing the same thing, which they love.
First of all, I love to sing, and growing up, I have been singing, but because of life circumstances, I didn't really put so much attention to it.
Of course, because I work full-time as an executive chef. And also I'm a father and I'm a husband, so I deal with the family home as well to make sure that they're being taken care of. Music experience I have, technically and educationally I have zero, but in terms of loving music, I've been loving music since I was a kid. So
It's our medium to reach out to the whole community, not just the Filipino community, if we can.
Singing songs in different languages is challenging, but it's also a very fun experience because you'll get to learn about the other people's cultures. It has its challenges, but it's very rewarding to sing and perform.
This is our family away from home, family away from the Philippines, and Musica is such a good environment, not just for us, but for everyone, because we also have different kinds of trainings that helps us improve not just in our singing, but also in our daily lives. So yes, Musica matters so much to us.
When we put everything together and the singers begin to realize what they've accomplished, I think that's a very, very special moment, especially when I see it in their eyes. They brighten up. There's a twinkle in their eyes. There's a smile on their faces when they realize that they created something beautiful. And for me, that's my reward as the director when I see that everybody's loving what they're doing.
So those were the voices of Musica choral director Oscar Pantilon, as well as choir members Ashley Medina Bonifacio, Ketufer Chacon, and Jesse Alsixabas. The piece was produced by Create students Luis Miguel Mangura, as well as Shay Miller and Shai Valensky East, in collaboration with CBC Manitoba. And a beautiful video accompanied that. If you're watching on YouTube the show this morning, you saw it. But you can also view it on our website at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
The customer you have reached,
Radio Noon,
is not available. Please leave your message at the tone.
Hello, this is Santa Claus. Just calling you back to say that I talked to the elves, and yes, they will let me take some calls from the good girls and boys of Manitoba on Radio Noon Christmas Eve from 12:30 to 1 p.m. Looking forward to it, so please don't hold any calls.
Santa Claus is coming to Radio Noon Christmas Eve from 12:30 to 1. Get those questions and Christmas wishes ready and dial 204-780-0893 for your chance to talk to Santa.
Time right now is 7:44 a.m. and blowing snow -9 this Christmas Eve in Winnipeg. And of course, Hanukkah begins tomorrow night at sundown as well. So many people and families getting ready for the season right now, whatever you're celebrating. And I had this moment yesterday at my desk. I want to take a few minutes to share this. It's going to be actually a few minutes for real, because I had this moment at my desk where I was cleaning everything off, and this letter that I'm holding in my hand literally fell out of stacks of papers. And I was sort of looking over all the things that pile up, scripts, background research, all kinds of things that I read and have. And this letter fell out, and I realized that it was from December 4th, 2023. But of all the days, it fell and slid off my desk yesterday. And here's what it says. And there's two parts to this. So before we add some music underneath what I'm about to read to you, I want to read the first part. It's anonymous, and it says, "Dear CBC, when cleaning out some drawers, I came across a poem that I'll read in a moment. A poem I wrote 20 plus years ago for a grandchild who was feeling confused about the season. At about 10 years of age, it seemed to them that you had to spend, and that, they couldn't do that with their allowance. So it goes on to say, after some thoughtful discussion, I helped her see things in a different way. So she started doing little chores in gratitude. She started helping the neighbors. She made lovely little decorations out of craft paper and colored pipe cleaners for a little tree she had. And the list went on. And she got insight into the season. No matter your religion, this anonymous listener writes, no matter your religion, your background, or beliefs, you can achieve, obviously, understanding the meaning of the season. And so they wrote a poem, and I thought, wow, what a day for this poem to slide out of those papers on my desk. And on this Christmas Eve morning, let's hear it. It's called What? Christmas Spirit. So you don't feel like Christmas. The gig has you down. The hype, crummy mall music, Santas like clowns. Well, make your own Christmas. Just open your eyes to see all possibilities. Ditch all the lies. There's so many people in need of a smile, a gesture, a kind word or deed. They're in style. Reflect on the season. It's not about buying. It's the gift of ourselves when we aren't even trying. And the gifts are always the best we can do. We must give freely all the year through. It's no myth, this business of naughty or nice. We are being kept track of, not just once or twice. They look back and say, not just once in December, that we are the first or the worst they remember. So what can we do at this time of year for family and friends and for those we hold dear? To give of ourselves. That's the best gift of all. Remember that, please, as you enter the mall. So enjoy all those lights, decorations, and trimmings, and wait for my favorite time. You guessed it, it's Thanksgiving. Isn't that cute? I just love that. Of course, I love the sentiment behind it as well. So whoever wrote this and whoever sent it in and was waiting last year for me to read it, I'm sorry it got stuck in the papers on my desk, but I'm really grateful that I found it to share this morning. And happy holidays to you. 13 minutes now to 8 o'clock. This is CBC. So we've got a lovely story coming up for you after 8 o'clock on the program. A woman from Leduc, Alberta won a private radio contest to go home for the holidays, and her plane landed yesterday here in Winnipeg. Now, the thing is, this is actually Winnipeg, the home of a half-sister that she never knew existed. So they met for the first time in person at our airport yesterday. CBC was there. Our community reporter Shanley Vidal caught it all. And stay tuned for that lovely story coming up for you after 8 right here on the show. Blowing snow, -9. Misty in Brandon, -13. And in Thompson, drifting snow and -8. Winnipeg today is going to be right around -1. Well, as I mentioned, it's one of those years where Hanukkah coincides with Christmas. So it's busy out there. Hanukkah, of course, the Festival of Lights begins tomorrow at sundown. The 8-day celebration marked each night with the lighting of a candle on the menorah. And Rabbi Alan Finkel is Rabbi Emeritus at Temple Shalom in Winnipeg and is here via Zoom. Good morning.
Good morning to you, Marcy.
How are you feeling this morning about the upcoming season in Hanukkah?
Well, I guess there's two parts. I can talk about it from the perspective of children, and there's the other messages we can take as adults. You know, I remember when I was a child and I'd be watching my children go through the same. They'd be counting on one more sleep right now because it's a very beautiful, very happy, very community-oriented event. So they'd be looking forward to all the beautiful traditions, which will start with the very first candle tomorrow night.
And through the perspective of adults, what are you thinking of this year?
You know, I think that Hanukkah was put near the longest night of the year for a reason, because I think that over the last 2,000 years, we've tended to have a lot of periods of darkness in our lives. And there's a lot of power about the idea on the darkest day of the year that we simply light one candle, because light pushes away the darkness. And it's like the first step forward when we really want to curl up and just kind of get really morose. And then we move to the second. You know, the first candle leads us to 2 the second night, and then to 3 the third night, all the way up to 8. So we learn about the idea of small steps, and we always persevere. So for me, in many ways, Hanukkah, for those of us who are more aware of the issues of the world, where we sit right now in modern times, it's really about resiliency and hope, and the idea that we have to take action. Rather than think about where we're at, we can always take one small step forward.
For those that may be listening, I just want to make sure everyone feels included that may be unfamiliar. What is the story of Hanukkah?
Well, it's one of those classic Jewish stories about they tried to kill us, we won, we eat. And this story goes back to about 150 BCE, which you'd call BC. And the Greeks were trying to they were destroying all the sacrificial places of the Jews. They were just overwhelming us at that time. And a small group of the Maccabees pushed back by far away against the odds, and they simply won. And later on, the tradition created the idea of the fact that there was a miracle afterwards when they went back into the great temple. The place had been desecrated. They only found one small canister of oil. But the Christmas miracle, the Hanukkah miracle, as is described, would be that it took 8 days to prepare other oil, but that one small canister of oil in the oil candles managed to last for the 8 full days.
What are some of the ways that Hanukkah has changed over the years when you think about even in our local Jewish community?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. First of all, being so proximate to Christianity in a majority Christian world, the idea of gifts has probably become a little bit more prominent. We've always given small gifts, but it's only gone down generationally, parents to children, grandparents to children. So it's probably evolved a little bit because of all their friends getting Hanukkah gifts, Christmas gifts. We've started to give the idea of relatively small gifts. When you grew up, it would be just simply gold chocolate coins. But over time, it's become some small token gifts as well.
In terms of getting together, obviously, I know I was looking at the calendar yesterday, and so there's different things going on in the community each and every night. What are some of the big things that you look forward to over the 8 days?
Well, there's always a community lighting at the Asper Jewish Community Center, this huge outdoor thing. That's always an honor to participate. They have different rabbis and other community people come in to take on one of the lightings every single night. And a large part of it is simply the gathering of families with each other. It's not quite like the Thanksgiving piece, but the idea of coming together, watching the joy in children as they play with dreidels. There's often big Hanukkah parties at the Jewish Community Center, as well as many synagogues where families get together and they just simply come together, enjoy a lot of crafts. Obviously, the lighting of the candles, latkes. It's always about the food.
I was going to ask you about the latkes, Rabbi Finkel. Are you involved in making the latkes or just consuming the latkes?
Not this year. Obviously, in my temple, we used to have this whole thing. We used to call it every Friday afternoon. We'd have this huge potluck as part of the Friday night service. And all the clergy and a number of the members of the choir would come together to make latkes all afternoon. And we described it as the annual oil change because we all came out and we were just completely soaked in oil from those things. And of course, that lingers for maybe 10 days afterwards.
What message would you like to give those Manitobans who celebrate Hanukkah this morning and those who don't, as we prepare to begin the holiday season?
I really appreciate that question. The whole idea behind Hanukkah really is about a holiday about otherness and that we're never alone and that we can always find within our own communities the support we need. So I think its messages are really quite universal. No matter whether we're alone in dark times or whether in communities which have been othered, and there are a lot of them these days. The idea that we can find each other, find the values that matter, and quietly push away against the darkness. One of the things I've always loved about Hanukkah is the candles are not lit in the middle of the table. They're lit on the windowsills. The idea that the rest of the world can see the strength that we have as well, and we're pushing back against the darkness.
That's a perfect place to leave our conversation. Happy Hanukkah as you move through the season, and thank you so much for being with us this Christmas Eve morning.
It's a beautiful season. Happy holidays to everybody. Thank you so much.
That is Rabbi Alan Finkel, Rabbi Emeritus at Temple Shalom, as we get connected to the various communities that are preparing to come together for this season. It is 6 minutes to 8 o'clock, and we have local music as well out of Winnipeg. Brothers Landreth with their take on the Christmas song.
Chestnuts roasting on an open fire, Jack Frost nipping at your nose, Yuletide carols being sung by a choir and folks dressed up from head to toe. Well, everybody knows a turkey and some mistletoe. helps to make the season bright. Tiny tots with their eyes all aglow will find it hard to sleep tonight. They know that Santa's on his way. He's bringing lots of toys and goodies on a sleigh. And every mother's child is gonna spy to see if reindeers really know how to fly. Oh, and so I'm offering this simple phrase to kids from 1 to 92. I know it's been said many times, many ways. Merry Christmas to you. I'm offering this simple phrase to kids from 1 to 92. And though it's been said many times, many ways, Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas to you.
Well done. Brothers Landreth out of Winnipeg, they're taking the Christmas song. That leads us right into our headlines with Riley Lachuk.
Good morning. A new funding deal has been a dream of Winnipeg mayors for decades now. Mayor Scott Gillingham says it's inevitable. We'll hear why coming up after 8. And Winnipeggers can go on a doggy date, or if the mood is right, maybe take a lucky dog home over the holidays. Adoptable dogs are getting ready to mingle with the public during an annual open house at Winnipeg Animal Services this afternoon. We'll bring you more on that story, and I'll have more local news coming up after World Report.
I'm dreaming of a provincial funding deal. It's not really that catchy, but
No, not quite. Doesn't have the same vibe to it.
all right, let's talk about a story that has a distinct holiday vibe to it. It's coming up after 8 o'clock on the show. They say the holidays are about family. Now imagine the anticipation of meeting a half-sister that you never knew existed, and you're going to meet her for the very first time in person on December 23rd. They met yesterday at the, it is a story unfolded for a Winnipeg woman at our airport yesterday. CBC was there. Stay tuned, and we're going to hear the story through the eyes of those half-sisters. We captured the moment they met in person the first time. That's after 8. Snow grains now in Winnipeg, so you might need the wipers out there. -8 is the current temperature. We'll go to -1 for this Christmas Eve. We have a 30% chance of ongoing flurries and freezing drizzles a risk this morning, and fog patches also could be possible. Now, it might not be too bad, though, because we're not hearing much on the traffic line. Call us if you do have a problem, though, 788-3093. And I'll just mention Windsor South 30, gusting to 50. Well, we're continuing to share the morning with you as it is Christmas Eve morning and then getting ready for Hanukkah tomorrow night. People are writing in with what you're doing. So Cam Bennett said, beating back existential dread with cookies and coffee laced with liqueurs. Then maybe a walk and a nap before gathering with our neighbors tonight. So Cam's a funny guy, a little tongue-in-cheek there. Ted Franson's out walking, first of 3 2K walks with Remy, as well as people up and having quiet time. Kirsten Nord said, reading quietly while everyone sleeps. And Tracy Dawn says, I'm taking a few quiet minutes with me, my coffee, my dog, by the tree. Merry Christmas. So if you want to share what you're doing this morning, 788-3205, and stay tuned for that story with the half-sisters.
Today on Q with Tom Power.
Beetlejuice, okay, no, I'm not going to say it 3 times. After the massive success of the original Beetlejuice, the director Tim Burton will tell you why he signed on for the long-awaited sequel and why the dynamic on set was really what made that film possible.
It's
It's showtime.
That's coming up on Q, followed by Commotion with Elamine Abdel Mahmoud on CBC Radio 1, the CBC Listen app, and everywhere you get your podcasts.
The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current.
I'm Mark Kelly. We're celebrating this year's Order of Canada recipients today, from Murdoch Mysteries creator Maureen Jennings to singer Heather Rankin to a world expert in maternal and child health. They're all coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. British Columbia's south coast is preparing for a series of windy winter storms. The first has already blown through, but forecasters warn there is more wind and rain coming. As Mira Baines tells us, it could cause power outages and delay some holiday travel plans.
Quite the opposite of a white Christmas.
Environment Canada meteorologist Chris Doyle says BC's west coast will be hit with strong winds and heavy rain on Wednesday. But this upcoming series of winter storms won't be bringing cold.
And through Christmas, it's going to be warm across the entire province, even in those areas up in the northwestern part of British Columbia and the Peace.
He says storm systems have been moving fast, pointing out Wednesday's storm originated in the southwestern Pacific near the Philippines. Extreme weather conditions have already resulted in numerous ferry cancellations, seaplane flights, and a landslide in which 2 people were killed in the town of Lions Bay near Squamish. BC Hydro spokesperson Moira Scott says emergency crews have been busy this season.
We have experienced 3 significant events already this storm season, 2 in November and then 1 in December, that have resulted in hundreds of thousands of customers being impacted.
One of the reasons is drought, which has weakened trees, making them more vulnerable to gusting winds. She says BC Hydro crews are on standby over the holidays and ready to be deployed to other parts of the province if necessary. Mira Baines, CBC News, Vancouver.
4 heli skiers and their guide have been rescued from an avalanche just north of Whistler near Pemberton, BC. They were buried in the snow yesterday morning. RCMP Constable Antoine Grabling says the heli skiers are lucky there was another group nearby. They started rescue efforts almost immediately.
2 out of the 5 people were buried for an amount of time equal or greater than 10 minutes. So we're very fortunate that this didn't result in any loss of life.
All the skiers are in stable condition. The RCMP says this avalanche is believed to have been caused by the heli skiing. They are asking backcountry skiers to pay attention to the conditions. Police in Hong Kong are offering $1 million bounties for information that leads to the arrest of 6 activists. The activists are based in Canada and the United Kingdom, and they're wanted for national security offenses following the 2019 anti-government protests. Many of those pro-democracy leaders have been jailed. Others fled abroad. But police announced 6 new warrants this morning. It is a signal Hong Kong is still cracking down on political dissent. Ontario banned cell phones from high school classrooms 3 months ago. The transition away from mobile devices has been difficult. Some students and teachers say they're starting to get used to the new rule. The CBC's Jamie Strachan reports.
It's lunchtime at Toronto's Humberside Collegiate, and it seems like nearly every one of the school's 1,500 students is on their phones. It's hard not to be, says student Alex Perry.
That's literally it. It's a drug. Everybody's you get addicted to it.
In September, it was cold turkey for Ontario high school students, the latest province to ban cell phones in classes for grades 7 to 12. Principal Claudine Tyrell helped design the Toronto District School Board's cell policy.
It's a culture shift. Let's be real. We know that, even as adults, we have a heavy reliance on it.
After a rocky start, she says there is an acceptance that things have changed. The schools even installed charging stations where students can store their phones.
We're reducing the distractions that take place in school, and we're saying, put it away and let's work together.
Still, there are growing pains, says Alex Perry.
We have to enforce it fully in all of our classes. So it's not like some in some classes and less than the others, it's all the classes 100%.
The biggest question, has it improved academic performance? It's too early to say, says teacher Albert Bangma.
It is really hard to judge. I think that the students don't love it, and that often is a good thing to a certain extent.
Principal Tyrell says the next step, doing a better job explaining to students there can be happiness and success without their phones. Jamie Strachan, CBC News, Toronto.
In Damascus. Hundreds of Christians protest in the streets of Syria's capital. A Christmas tree that had been set up in the central city of Hama was burned down. A video posted online shows hooded vandals setting it on fire. It's been just over 2 weeks since Islamist rebels took over the country. People in Syria's Christian communities have been afraid of how they would be treated by the new regime. But in an online video, a member of the ruling group HTS said those who torched the Christmas tree were not Syrian. He says they will be punished and the tree will be restored. Statistics Canada's latest immigration report shows newcomers admitted to Quebec usually choose to stay there. Of everyone who arrived in that province in 2021, 94% of them were still there a year later. The same was not true in Atlantic Canada. Retention rates have been dropping, especially in Nova Scotia and Newfoundland and Labrador. The report says immigrants who leave Atlantic Canada are more likely to settle in Ontario. Experts say that could be because it is easier to find their cultural communities in provinces with bigger cities. Canada's film industry is anticipating a big year ahead. Much of that could be thanks to the low Canadian dollar. This morning, the loonie sits at around 69 cents U.S. That may be putting a strain on Canadians traveling stateside. But as the CBC's Taylor Brott explains, it is doing the opposite for American film companies eyeing Canadian locations.
If you don't think there's hope for the world, why bother going on?
The Last of Us was named the largest production to ever be filmed in Alberta, according to the Motion Picture Association of Canada. The post-apocalyptic TV series is part of a wave of U.S. productions choosing to film in the country, and there are several reasons why, according to Michelle Wong. She's the head of business affairs at production company 724 Films in Calgary.
Of course, it's right next door to the U.S. We speak their language. Our culture is very similar. We're known as a hardworking country.
On top of tax incentives and dynamic landscapes, she says the low dollar could be another feather in our cap.
When the dollar goes down, that means a lot more production is going up.
Wong knows this because it's happened before. In 2002, the Canadian dollar reached an all-time low of 61 cents against its U.S. counterpart. And Damien Petty agrees. He's the president of Local 212 of the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees in Calgary.
That was a very, very busy year for production, not just in Alberta, but nationally.
As an Albertan, he sees competition heating up between the provinces.
We have to look at what those other jurisdictions are doing. It's a very competitive, bottom line driven industry.
We have a greater purpose than any of us could have ever imagined.
And as for The Last of Us Season 3 filming in Canada, Petty says right now everyone is waiting for a decision from HBO. Taylor Brott, CBC News, Calgary.
It is a big year for fans of Canadian author Lucy Maud Montgomery. 2024 would have been her 150th birthday. The manuscript for her most beloved novel was added to a United Nations register celebrating Canadian heritage. All of that is making Christmas celebrations at the Green Gables Museum on PEI extra special. Connor Lamont reports.
Children decorate cookies, sing, and sip hot drinks at a Green Gables Christmas in Cavendish. Kaylee Curry leads pinprick art lessons for kids, something that was popular during the time of L.M. Montgomery.
I can't wait to come back for L.M. Montgomery 200.
Curry is a museum operations manager on the island. She says Montgomery's works have been a huge inspiration in her own life, and that the author deserves to be added to the United Nations register that highlights Canadian heritage. The register includes things like maps and diaries significant to Canada's history. Montgomery's manuscript is the first edition for Prince Edward Island.
I think you can't downplay her importance. I mean, she's such an incredible woman, a very ambitious and intelligent and determined woman for her time period, and especially for someone like that to come out of Atlantic Canada. I think that's really, really special.
Montgomery was born in PEI in 1874 and taught at multiple schools on the island. Her novel, Anne of Green Gables, is her most popular work. And Curry isn't the only one excited about the recent recognition. Kevin Rice is the director at the Confederation Center Art Gallery in Charlottetown. It's where the manuscript can be found.
That we actually have preserved that stack of papers that really captures Montgomery's story, her writing activity. I think that's a really major cultural artifact.
As for Curry, she says Montgomery's works will continue to inspire readers for many more generations. Connor Lamont, CBC News, Cavendish.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report News Anytime at cbcnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, Manitoba, and hello, Winnipeg. How you doing out there? It's a busy day. Take a breath. Enjoy it. Remember why we're all here, getting ready for the holidays. Thanks for being with us. And thanks for starting Christmas Eve morning with CBC 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and on YouTube. Nice to see you. This hour on the program, this half hour, a woman from Leduc, Alberta, won a private radio contest to go home for the holidays. Her plane landed yesterday here in Winnipeg. The thing is, this is actually the home of a half-sister that she never knew existed. So the two met for the first time in person at our airport yesterday, and CBC was there. So we've got a really lovely holiday story coming up for you. You're also writing into us on Facebook and calling us about the different traditions that you're engaging in this morning. And man, I want to eat at a lot of your houses. If you want to see some scrumptious food pics, have a look at our Facebook page. That's Marcy Marcusa Online. Someone sent in a video even, Riley, of like pancake prep this morning.
Ooh, wow.
Right? I know.
I'm hungry.
Riley Lechuk, as you can hear, is in for Heather Wells this Christmas Eve, and you have our headlines.
Good morning. If you're getting a new smartphone or tablet this holiday season, well, the Winnipeg Resource Centre would love to take your old one off of your hands. Sunshine House is seeking donations of used mobile devices and laptops. We'll tell you why ahead. And the mayor of Winnipeg says he's confident the province will eventually agree to a new funding model for cities. Scott Gillingham has been pressing the premier for a new formula that includes some form of growth-based revenue. We'll hear details in a year-end interview with the mayor coming up in your next news at 8:30.
All right. Thank you, Riley.
Welcome.
Let's get into this forecast now with Abby Adiyemi. What's up?
It's Christmas Eve.
It is Christmas Eve. Is that why you're wearing a Grinch onesie?
Yeah, I'm not trying to steal Christmas. I'm just... Okay, how about this? Maybe I should do the transformation at this point.
Abby's taking his hood. Okay, Abby just took his hood off. Oh, and now you've turned into the Santa, the joyful with the Santa toque on.
How about that?
I like it. I like it. Less Grinchy. Very nice.
Yeah, but the weather is not going to be really less Grinchy because of that's, cloudy conditions that will be seen. And then, some freezing, snow here and there would be felt in a whole bunch of the province. And then as the day moves on, we should see clear conditions from that cloudy skies we'll be seeing. And temperatures would range from -11 in Brandon to -6 in Churchill. But currently, Winnipeg, we are at -8, and we should see more like a high of -1 today.
Okay, thank you, Abby.
Thank you.
Let's get into what's happening in our details with our morning commute, which has been okay so far, mate?
It's been okay. I did get a call in the last half hour. Just someone in the city here in Winnipeg letting us know that when they were leaving Sage Creek on westbound Ward Ave towards Lajimodiere, it was quite icy. And that's just a good reminder to everyone here in the city. We're looking at some slippery conditions. So when you're approaching intersections, just slow down a little sooner than you might. Other than that, we're looking at some conditions outside of the city, particularly west of Brandon along Highway number 1, all the way north to Rossburn and Delaware. We're seeing some reduced visibility and partially covered blowing snow on the roads. So that's what I'm looking at so far, but we have a little bit of time left in our show for one more hit. So if you're seeing anything getting in the way of the commute out there, please give me a call, 204-788-3093.
And now let's go to the listener lines. I mentioned you've been writing in with what you're thinking about and what you're planning for today.
Morning, Marcy. Diane Lindbergh. I guess it was maybe 3-4 years ago. Deneen, when he was on the air, he emailed me that lady that stayed at the Fort Garry Hotel and walked down Broadway. But I still have that tape, and I take it to Deer Lodge every year and get some of the people to listen to it. Mostly the ladies are interested in it, in the recovery floor where they've had a broken hip and they're recovering. So I love the Christmas stories, and there's a lot of people in Deer Lodge that listen to CBC, so I just wanted to let you know. And thank you for the stories. And very Merry Christmas to you.
Well, thanks for the call. She's referring to that poem, of course, that you may recall, called In Winnipeg at Christmas. It was written by Rose Fileman, and it was all about our city at Christmas time. We also got this call.
Hi, good morning. This is David Coruscant calling, and I'm just calling to tell you how I'm celebrating Christmas with my wife this year. We've never had this occasion to celebrate it this way. We've been apart for 7 weeks now. My wife had a hip replacement surgery in Brandon, and she's at the Manitoba Hospital recovering. So today I plan to spend the afternoon with her, me and my German Shepherd, and we're going to go and visit my wife. And then this evening we have a candlelight service at Hilltop Baptist Church at 8 o'clock. So this is the kind of Christmas season that we're going to have, but it's all good. We are living in a good country right now. Blessings, everyone, and Merry Christmas.
Carol Townsley is cooking this morning. She slapped the turkey bird, gave it a little pat, and put it in the oven. Family turkey dinner, lunch today, she says, accommodating a son-in-law who's a police officer. And let's remember all those folks that work around the holidays, right? Lots of people, and most of them in those frontline service industries and taking care of us. So Carol's having her dinner around noon today, or lunchtime. Family food and fun, she says, is what Christmas is for her. Deb Bosch is looking forward to Christmas Eve, says no work for me today and no turkey slapping. I got a pre-stuffed butterball, she says, cooking from frozen. And we have other folks writing in just about the piece of this morning. So Maureen Morris saying, I'm cuddled up with tea in my book with my cats and my little dog, gazing periodically to look at the lights on the tree. Well, up next on the show, two half-sisters, Lisa Wallace, who is 47, and Jennifer Henderson, who is 48. One lives here in Winnipeg. That's Lisa. One is from Leduc, Alberta. That's Jennifer. Well, why are we talking about them? Because they met each other for the first time face-to-face yesterday. Up until a few months ago, they did not even know that the other sister existed. The visit was thanks to an Edmonton private radio contest that the sisters won after they shared their story. The contest was to be home for the holidays. CBC Manitoba community reporter Shanley Vidal was at the airport in Winnipeg as the flight was arriving.
I'm here at Winnipeg's Richardson International Airport, where people are waiting to meet family members for the holiday season. Some have flowers. There's hugs being given by the hug rug. And I'm actually here with a Winnipegger who is about to meet a family member who she's actually never met before. Hi, Lisa.
Hi.
This is Lisa Wallace, and Lisa Wallace recently found out that she has a sister. Tell me about your sister.
I only know a few things about her because we've only known each other for 3 months. In September of this year, I discovered that she existed. We share a biological father, but our whole lives we never knew that each other existed. And so then it came out in September, and it took me about 3 weeks and some good social media action, and I was able to find her, and it was like an instant connection. So from the moment we talked the first time via text, it was like, wow, you're my sister. And she really is. She's my sister.
You're going to meet Jennifer in person for the very first time. What are you feeling right now as you're waiting for that flight to arrive from Edmonton?
Well, I keep looking at the arrivals board, and I was okay driving here, but now I have butterflies. Now I'm nervous. I hope that we get along. I hope that it's as natural in person as it has been.
What do you think you'll do when you see her? You think you'll hug her? What do you think is going to happen?
I don't know. I think we're both going to be maybe a little bit in shock. I think we'll definitely hug. But the whole situation is so surreal. Like, I can't believe this is happening to us, right? Like, I can't believe that this is my life at this moment.
How does it feel to be kind of getting this gift for Christmas?
It's pretty magical. Yeah, like who who gets a sister for Christmas, right? Like, you want a puppy, but I get a sister. Okay. I'm okay. This is the first time I'm meeting your sister. Oh my God. Hi, Owen. We're the same height. We are. Oh my God. I can't believe you're real. Was your flight okay? It was good. It was good. I promise we won't cry all the time. I know it's super weird.
Oh my God.
I know.
This is so crazy.
I know. Let's go get your luggage. Okay.
I'm Jennifer. This is Owen. We are here in Winnipeg to meet my sister for the very first time ever. I don't even know what else to say.
How are you feeling right now? I know you're looking pretty emotional. There were a few hugs that were exchanged.
Definitely. All I ever wanted in my entire life was to have a sister, and I've had one this whole time, and I didn't know. So it's definitely it's an amazing feeling. I can't describe it any other way.
What was it like when you found out that you had a sister?
It was weird. I thought at first, I was like, what? Like, what? But then it was like, okay, no, like I have a sister. This is cool. I love it. I love the idea. I love how everything came to be with our story and how she tracked me down. And I'm just so happy that I finally have a sister.
And you have a sister. Oh, and you have an aunt. How are you feeling about that?
Excited.
What's planned? I understand you're going to be spending Boxing Day together.
Well, yes, we're definitely spending Boxing Day together, as well as a couple other days after that. As far as what we've got planned, I don't know. We're just going to do sister things.
Now, Lisa, I understand you told me that you're just getting to know each other, right? But you kind of missed out on a lot of things growing up, and a lot of things sisters do, like having sleepovers and things like that, and staying up late and watching movies. What are you hoping to do together?
Well, I'm super cheesy, and it's really nice that Jen is super cheesy too. But we're gonna definitely we're gonna go visit our childhood homes to see where each other grew up.
Yes.
We're gonna go, I think, probably visit each other's high schools to see where each other went to high school. We're definitely going to do some like cute Winnipeg things, right?
Definitely.
Just for like the sake of what do you do in Winnipeg, right? But I think it would be so funny, and we won't do it, but it would be so hilarious if we like put on grad dresses and like pretend, you know what I mean? Like
yes.
Stupid stuff that we totally missed out on.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? But like obviously we wouldn't do that. But just we're gonna try to like I think recreate some things that we never had when we were growing up.
Yeah. Definitely.
Now, so your moms are both here in Winnipeg. What do your moms think of this?
It's a pretty big shock, I think, for both of our moms.
Yeah, definitely. My mom was nothing short of excited and happy, and so understanding and welcoming of the idea of Lisa and I having a relationship as sisters.
When we were speaking earlier, Lisa, like you were getting nervous and you weren't sure how were you gonna react when you saw Jennifer and Owen for the first time. Tell me what happened, what you're feeling when you saw them come down.
Well, I thought it was great that I recognized them both right away. And then I don't know, I feel like I like left my body just right, because it was this like I'm like, do I run up the stairs? Do you run down the escalator?
I know.
I didn't want to trip on TV, so
I didn't want to tumble down the escalator. Because that would be me.
So now, now that she's here, it is already kind of how it's been, right? Like, it doesn't feel weird. It doesn't.
No. I think like right from the start when we connected, it just was like so natural, and it was just like we've really known each other our whole lives, even though we haven't. Like it's
like we still share half of each other's DNA.
We really do. So. I mean, we're sisters.
So honestly, I don't know about you, but I got the tissues beside me in the studio because having a sister that, I live in the same city as my sister, so you end up taking each other for granted. And then watching that moment, I can't even. Lovely, really lovely. Each of them never knew. They do share a father who never explained that the other existed. That's Winnipegger Lisa Wallace meeting her half-sister Jennifer Henderson. Lisa also met, as you heard there, her 12-year-old nephew Owen for the first time. And I should get this right because with sisters, you got to know who's older and younger, and I mixed up the ages. So Lisa is the older sister at 48. Jennifer is 47. They are very close in age, obviously. Thanks to CBC's Shanley Vidal, our community reporter, and Travis Colby for bringing us that story on this Christmas Eve. And we have an appropriate tune to back it up.
I'll be home for Christmas. You can plan on me. Please have snow and mistletoe and presents on the tree. Christmas Eve will find me where the love light gleams. I'll be home for Christmas, if only in my dreams. I'll be home for Christmas. You can plan on me. Please have snow and mistletoe and presents on the tree. Christmas Eve will find me where the love light gleams. I'll be home for Christmas, if only in my dreams.
Little Bing Crosby for you on this Christmas Eve morning. Bing Crosby, Boney M, and Bob Watts Trio. This group I'm addicted to for my Christmas tunes. It's -8 in Winnipeg, snow grains. I'm Marcy Marcusa with our team at Information Radio. Let's take a proper moment to thank everyone who worked on all of our shows this week. So we're talking about the morning show, noon, up to speed, and the weekend show. The associate producers in our current affairs unit here at CBC Manitoba are Corey Funk, Abby Adiemi, Kalkadan Mulugeta, Sierra Sanders, Chidi Akuma, May McKillop, Marshall Hodgins, Angelina Peltier, Emma Fazakash, Dylan Longhurst, Carmen Ponto, Issa Kixon, Chloe Friesen, and Bruce Layden. Ian Fraze as well contributing this week. Our current affairs reporters in unit are Shanley Vidal and Jim Agapito. Our YouTube producer is Kevin Nipatebo. Producers in unit that work this week, Donna Carrero, Robin Summerfield, Joanne Levasseur, Riley Lechek, and Mike Arsenault are out in our news department this morning on our live team. Wendy Parker, also producer in unit. And overall, our lead producers in current affairs, Nellie Gonzalez produces all the programs here in CA, and then Leif Larson is the senior producer of audio here at CBC Manitoba. Thank you all for your hard work. Happy holidays, and wishing you peace, quiet, or joy and tons of festivities, whatever your jam is, find it. In the city this morning and out on the highways, we've actually had pretty good run of it. So nothing major to be mentioning in terms of what's happening out there in traffic. We are obviously late now in the morning show. Keep the number on hand, though, for Up to Speed this afternoon, because it's going to be really busy on the roadways, I suspect. Always is on Christmas Eve. But 788-3093 is the traffic line here, the commuter line at CBC. Your news is coming up next.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Riley Lechuk in Winnipeg at 8:30. It's -9 right now at the airport. We're looking at a high of -1 this afternoon. A slight chance of a few flurries through southern Manitoba this morning, with the risk of some freezing drizzle. A new funding deal has been a dream of Winnipeg mayors for decades now, and Mayor Scott Gillingham says it's now inevitable. And as the CBC's Cameron McLean reports, there are examples of other cities in Canada that have found ways to bring in new money.
After years of under-budgeting for things like snow removal and challenges around mental health, the city is under financial pressure. Mayor Scott Gillingham has a prediction.
There's coming a time when a premier is going to enter into a new funding model with municipalities, one that incentivizes growth.
Saskatchewan will transfer $340 million next year, about 3/4 of a point of the PST. And Quebec gives 1 point of its sales tax. Vancouver's transit service TransLink receives a share of fuel tax. University of Toronto researcher Enid Slack says Winnipeg's system is outdated.
There's a long list of challenges that are new, and yet the finance system that they have really dates back to the 1840s.
But Winnipegger Michelle Durand-Wood says the sales tax is less stable than a property tax.
We can't have that ability to provide those services subject to the whims of the economic cycle.
Gillingham's goal is getting the property tax increase back to 3.5%. But without new funding or service cuts, that will be a challenge. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Overseas this morning, police in Hong Kong are offering bounties in the millions of Hong Kong dollars for information that leads to the arrest of 6 activists. Police announced the warrants this morning. The activists are based in Canada and the United Kingdom. Hong Kong police say they are wanted for national security offenses following the 2019 anti-government protests. Many of those pro-democracy leaders have been jailed while others fled abroad. To northwest Turkey. Rescue workers survey the rubble of an ammunitions factory. At least 12 people are dead after an explosion there. 4 others were injured. It happened in the city of Balıkesir. The local governor says the explosion caused the capsule production building to collapse. Officials don't know the cause, but have ruled out sabotage. Turkey's justice minister has launched an investigation. A U.S. citizen has been sentenced to 15 years in jail in Russia for espionage. Eugene Spector was born in Russia but later moved to the United States. When Spector returned to Russia in 2021, he was arrested for bribery. He pleaded guilty to mediating a bribe for an aide to an ex-Russian deputy prime minister. Spector was serving a 3.5-year sentence. In August, he faced an additional charge of espionage. Bethlehem is preparing for another somber Christmas under the shadow of war in Gaza. Manger Square lacked its usual festive lights and crowds of tourists. Instead, the area outside the Nativity Church was quiet. The war and the violence in the occupied West Bank have triggered a lack of festivities and deeply hurt Bethlehem's economy. The town relies heavily on Christmas tourism. Well, back here at home, a Winnipeg Resource Centre hopes that you get a new phone this holiday season. That's because Sunshine House is seeking your old smartphones. The devices will go to people in need, including 2 LGBTQ+ community members who are facing homelessness. Jenny Henkelman with Sunshine House says not everyone has a mobile device, and it can really help someone who's looking for work or for a place to live.
can be a game changer if someone just simply doesn't have the resources to get a smartphone on their own. If we can have the ability to provide them with that, it could really improve their life.
Donated phones, tablets, or laptops must be from 2018 or later and must be in good working condition. They should also be reset to factory settings. And finally, do you need a new leash on life? Well, Winnipeg Animal Services is letting out its adoptable dogs during an annual open house that's taking place today. Jennifer Harrower is the acting general manager of the agency. She says there are some very playful dogs that are ready to mingle.
Our play yards will be open, so we will have some toys and treats out for the dogs. We will also be serving some hot chocolate and sweet treats for the humans. And we're just hoping that we get a good turnout with the public and spread some love with the dogs in our shelter.
They're also looking for donations of dollars, food, and other necessities. Treats for staff, they say, are also welcome, though. That event takes place at 1057 Logan between 3 and 6 this afternoon. And that's your CBC News from Winnipeg.
Merry Christmas, Friday!
Oh, my goodness. Thanks. You too.
You're welcome. You're welcome. The desired reaction.
Oh, boy.
Thanks for the morning, Riley.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah, thanks to everyone this morning. We get ready to wrap the show here. All right, a final quick look at the commute.
Just a quick look. We got a call about eastbound Centerport just past Sturgeon. Both lanes are at a standstill. Thanks for that call. That was about 20 minutes ago, so I hope that moves through quickly.
All right, Merry Christmas. Happy holidays, May. Thank you.
Thank you.
May McKillop and Kevin Ipatebo on our live team. Thank you, guys. All right, Abby Adiemi, take it away with this forecast.
We are looking at mostly cloudy conditions across the province this morning. That should clear as we get into the day. We're going to see temperatures ranging from like minus 11 all the way to minus 6 in Churchill at this time. But Winnipeg currently minus 8. Enjoy the day. Have fun, but take it easy on the road. Remember, it's going to be slippery.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you, my friend, and eat as much as you can.
Check.
Check.
Enjoy Mass tonight. Enjoy your family.
Yeah, and of course, remember those that don't have enough.
100%. Yep. So many people. Thanks, everyone, for listening this Christmas Eve morning. And happy Hanukkah coming up. Tomorrow at sundown. And whatever you're doing over the holiday season, thank you so much for listening to us on Information Radio. And hopefully you find some peace and you find some joy and you find some quiet if that's what you're looking for. Or, as I like to say, you find some crazy loud merriment with folks as well. So have a good one. We will be back once again on Friday morning with another edition of Information Radio. And don't forget, I don't want to bury the headline this Christmas Eve morning. Santa Claus is here taking your calls live, kids, between 12:30 and 1 o'clock on Radio Noon. So make a date to call in, and Laurie Hook-Stratton's going to be your guest host. Merry Christmas, everyone.